Chapter 718. Zhao Fu went to the wyvern den and fused the spawn point stone into it. Countless rays of light spread out, and the den gradually expanded until it was 4 times larger than before. It gave off an even more powerful aura, and it could now spawn 5 wyverns every 2 days. The den was now a basic city, and if it became a great city, it would be able to spawn wyverns every day. With the spawn point stone, it would be able to spawn 5 wyverns every day. Leveling up the den required the den's creatures to obtain EXP, so Zhao Fu planned to raise some wyverns to level up the denver. That way, more and more wyverns would spawn, and the wyvern core would be incredibly powerful. Zhao Fu then went to the plantation region. Zhao Fu now had 2 bottles of silver spirit liquid. So how should he use them? Should he use 1 each, or should he give 2 to the tree of life? Or should he give both to the ginseng tree? In order to nurture the tree of life, Zhao Fu mainly wanted to have a large number of divine tree warriors. This profession was quite powerful, and not only did they have outstanding strength, but they also had powerful recovery effects. They performed quite well on the battlefield, so Zhao Fu wanted them. Nurturing the ginseng tree was mainly for the ginseng fruit, which could increase lifespan and was a very precious treasure. The 2 bottles of silver spirit liquid could be used 20 times, and after thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided to use them on the ginseng tree. A single tree of life could give 3,000 divine tree warriors, and 10 ginseng fruits could give 30,000 divine tree warriors. 20 ginseng fruits would only give 60,000 divine tree warriors, which would not be very useful. Ginseng fruits, which could increase lifespan, were quite rare in the Heaven Spirit Steel. If they were given as a quest reward, they would attract many people. However, Zhao Fu did not plan to give them as a quest reward, as the ginseng tree could be planted. Zhao Fu wanted to refine some lifespan pills from the ginseng tree, which would be even more valuable. Zhao Fu dripped a drop of silver spirit liquid on the ginseng tree, and the liquid immediately seeped into the tree. The ginseng tree gave off waves of silver light, and it madly grew at a rate visible to the naked eye. The tree became taller and taller, and its crown became larger and larger. After a while, it became a 100-year-old ginseng tree. It was 30 or so meters tall, and its crown was 10 or so meters wide. It was very lush and had a powerful life force, but it still could not bear fruits yet. Zhao Fu turned the 18 ginseng trees into 100-year-old trees. As for the remaining 2 drops of silver spirit liquid, Zhao Fu used 1 drop on the 100-year-old ginseng tree and the other on the tree of life next to the fountain of life. The 100-year ginseng tree had become a 200-year ginseng tree, and in another 50 years, it could become a level 2 ginseng tree. The tree of life that had been planted near the spring of life had absorbed a large amount of life energy, and it had grown even more lush than ordinary trees of life. These food trees would become 100-year-old trees, and would become 100-year-old trees, and would become of trees and points. These points would become 100-year-old trees, above the water, and a tree, and the dens in years and larger, and a in years, wooden fu, and the hung of. Zhao Fu had to rely on himself to level up the capital city, and right now, he could not obtain them from other places. For example, the Heaven Spirit Steel had them, but Zhao Fu did not have quest points. If he had a massive amount of quest points, he would not have to worry about anything. Since he couldn't obtain them, he could only rely on himself. As such, he had to choose 3 suitable cities to upgrade to capital cities. Zhao Fu now had countless great cities because the system's main cities from before were all great cities. If he used them to level up to capital cities, he would be able to save a lot of EXP. However, since they were only gold grade and did not have any special stats, they were not very suitable. The remaining choices were the legatees that Qin had destroyed. The first was the Maurya dynasty cities. The Maurya dynasty was one of the most powerful legatees in India, and its stats were much more powerful than a system main city. What's more, it was legendary grade, so it would be no problem for it to become a capital city. The other choices were Great Shun and the state of Zheng. As for Northern Zhou, the state of Wei, and the state of Qi, Zhao Fu had given them the title of ruler, so they had autonomy in some of their culture. It wasn't very suitable for them to become Qin's capital cities. Then there was the Icy Spirit City and the Fiery Flame City, which were also options. In the end, Zhao Fu chose Moria City, Icy Spirit City, and Fiery Flame City, and he gave up on Great Shun and the state of Zhong. This was because he felt that using another kingdom's cities as Qin's capital cities wasn't very suitable. Zhao Fu was quite interested in the ice and fire bloodlines, so he chose Icy Spirit City and Fiery Flame City. They were worth nurturing by Zhao Fu. After making this decision, Zhao Fu started to make some preparations. However, Zhao Fu decided not to upgrade them for now, and he would consider upgrading Qin's capital city to a level 6 capital city first. After doing these things, Zhao Fu felt quite relaxed. Now that Qin's soldiers were clearing out regions, Zhao Fu was quite free. Seeing that there was nothing to do, Zhao Fu left the heaven-awakened world. After returning to his body, Zhao Fu opened his eyes and opened the door to his room. He did not see Zheng Yuqin, so Zhao Fu looked around and did not pay too much mind. He sat at the table and started to eat. After eating to his heart's content, Zhao Fu sat in front of his computer. He first went to the Heaven Awakened World Forum and casually glanced through it. After not finding anything, he opened QQ. By now, Zhao Fu had contacted the people from before, and he found that they were doing quite well, so he did not disturb them. It was just that he had not been able to contact Lu Shi yet. With Zhao Fu's current abilities, he would be able to easily obtain information about her. However, Zhao Fu did not want to disturb her, as it had been a long time since they had been together. After looking through QQ and seeing that there was nothing else, Zhao Fu prepared to log off. At that moment, Zheng Jiao walked in and smiled as she looked at Zhao Fu. She sat on Zhao Fu's lap and wrapped her arms around Zhao Fu's neck as she said shyly, "Zhao Fu, have you been very busy recently? I haven't seen you in a long time, and I've missed you." Zhao Fu smiled as he hugged Zheng Jiao. Seeing how shy she looked, this woman who was his cousin-in-law lowered his head and kissed her lips, and Zheng Jiao passionately responded. After a while, Zhao Fu looked at the blushing Zheng Jiao and placed his hands on her large breasts, and he started to move around. Zheng Jiao did not feel scared at all, and she instead looked at Zhao Fu seductively. Zhao Fu quickly took off her clothes, and the two of them started to do it on chair. Afterwards, Zheng Jiao sat on Zhao Fu's lap and felt quite powerless, but she had a happy and satisfied smile on her face. Today, they had finally done it. However, Zhao Fu was incredibly strong in this area, and he had not softened even after so long. Zheng Jiao suddenly thought of her cousin's words, and she hugged Zhao Fu as she said shyly, "Zhao Fu, you're too amazing. I'm afraid that I won't be able to serve you by myself. How about I call my cousin? She's also a great beauty." Zhao Fu wanted to refuse, but Zheng Jiao's body did not soften at all, so she still made a phone call. Zhao Fu had never thought that Zhao Fu would know her. Chapter 719. Zhao Fu felt quite awkward because he and Zheng Jiao were sitting naked on a chair as they watched the woman walk in. She had a beautiful face and a graceful figure, and her skin was snow white. She wore a purple dress with straps, revealing a large area of her chest. She had light makeup on, and it seemed that she had put a lot of effort into her appearance, making anyone who saw her feel quite moved. Zhao Fu was not very familiar with her, but he knew her because they were in the same class. She was Bai Yin. She was one of the prettiest girls in Zhao Fu's class, and she was also Yang Zhe's girlfriend. Zhao Fu could still remember seeing the two of them sitting on a chair together, looking incredibly sweet. That was enough to make anyone feel envious and believe in love. However, Zhao Fu had never thought that Zheng Jiao's cousin would be Bai Yin, and that they would meet in such a way. Bai Yin had never thought that this Zhao Fu would be the Zhao Fu from her university classmate. Bai Yin had heard of Zhao Fu's name from Zheng Jiao before, but there were simply too many people with the same name. Bai Yin had never thought that the Zhao Fu that Zheng Jiao was talking about was the same person as the Zhao Fu that she knew. After all, their statuses were like heaven and earth. One was an introverted student who wore simple clothes, while the other stood at the peak of the world and controlled the lives and deaths of countless people. If it wasn't for the fact that she had personally witnessed this, she definitely would not have believed that these two people were the same person. She had long since heard about Zhao Fu from Zheng Jiao and knew just how monstrous his abilities were. He was Qin's legatee's representative, and he held great power. The entire world had to be wary of him. After hearing that the world was about to change, Bai Yin knew just how dangerous it would be. When she heard that her cousin had a relationship with Qin's people, she felt incredibly shocked. After hearing that that person was Qin's representative, Bai Yin felt incredibly excited and felt that her opportunity had come. In the future, she would not be able to protect herself or her family. Therefore, she urgently needed to find a strong and indestructible backer. Qin was her ideal candidate. However, Qin City was too high for her to reach, so she didn't overthink it. However, after learning about what had happened between Zheng Jiao and Zhao Fu, she immediately broke up with Yang Zhe and went to Qin City. Zheng Jiao was quite worried that Zhao Fu would not touch her. Bai Yin comforted Zheng Jiao for a while before telling her what she wanted. She wanted Zheng Jiao to introduce her to Zhao Fu as well. That way, they could work together and help each other obtain a higher position in Zhao Fu's heart. Zheng Jiao was quite happy about this suggestion, and she was quite at ease with her cousin. How could she care about how many women Zhao Fu had? She just hoped that she would have a place in Zhao Fu's heart. As such, after doing it with Zhao Fu and sensing how powerful Zhao Fu was, the first person Zheng Jiao thought of was her cousin. After hearing about this, Bai Yin couldn't help but feel quite excited. She was finally going to meet Great Qin City's representative, but she had never thought that she would meet her university classmate, Zhao Fu. At that moment, Bai Yin felt quite awkward and had never thought that something like this would happen. Looking at their expressions, Zheng Jiao lay on Zhao Fu's body and asked curiously, "What is it? Do you know each other?" Zhao Fu dryly laughed as he said, "She was my classmate." "Really?" Zheng Jiao said in delight. Since Zhao Fu and her cousin knew each other, things would be much easier and she wouldn't have to worry about anything. "I'm so tired. I'm going to rest for a while. You two can chat." Zheng Jiao smiled as she left Zhao Fu's body and lay on the bed next to him. Because it was the first time that she had been tormented by Zhao Fu for so long, she closed her eyes and quickly fell asleep. After Zheng Jiao left, Zhao Fu's body was completely exposed to Bai Yin. Looking at Zhao Fu's hard thing, Bai Yin's face became slightly red, but she still walked over and sat on Zhao Fu's lap as she lightly hugged Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu felt quite awkward and spread out his arms, not knowing what to do. "Do you dislike me?" Bai Yin leaned against Zhao Fu's shoulder as she looked at Zhao Fu. After all, they were university classmates, and Bai Yin knew that Zhao Fu knew about her relationship with Yang Zhe. "I didn't," Zhao Fu said awkwardly. "Then why aren't you touching me?" Bai Yin harumphed as she pouted and acted coquettishly. Zhao Fu thought about it and laughed. Now that things had come to this, there was no point in hesitating. As such, he placed his hand on Bai Yan's voluptuous chest. Bai Yan's face became even redder, and she flirtatiously looked at Zhao Fu before kissing Zhao Fu, and the two of them started to do it. After a while, Zhao Fu suddenly felt that Bai Yin, who was lying on the table, had become even more excited. He looked over and found that a group chat window had been opened. Yang Zhe was chatting with others, telling them about his sweet past with Bai Yin, as well as his current heartache. Everyone in the group was comforted, and the infatuated girl continued to confess. Perhaps Yang Zhe would never have thought that his beloved girlfriend would be doing such a shameful thing with Zhao Fu, and that Bai Yin was looking at him as he spoke. Zhao Fu felt that he had become more and more evil, and some of his reactions had become even more intense. Afterwards, Bai Yan's face was completely red as she leaned against Zhao Fu's shoulder and panted as she said, "Zhao Fu, I never thought that you'd be so strong. My body was about to fall apart because of you. Anyone who wants to be your woman will definitely die of happiness." Zhao Fu smiled as he hugged her and said, "Aren't you now?" Bai Yin couldn't help but laugh. She had never thought that things would go so smoothly, and that Zhao Fu would approve of her so easily. At the same time, she felt quite relieved that Zhao Fu wasn't someone who would go back on his word. In actuality, she had been prepared to be toyed with by Zhao Fu. Following this, Bai Yin thought of something and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I'm not a virgin anymore. If I knew this day would come, I would have left it for you and made you my man." Zhao Fu looked at Bai Yin pitifully and smiled as he replied, "I don't mind, so you don't have to worry about it." Bai Yin sweetly nodded before blushing and saying in a small voice, "This is my first time." Before Zhao Fu could react, Bai Yin's body slid under Zhao Fu's body and started to service Zhao Fu. After resting for a while, Zheng Jiao woke up. Seeing the two of them being so daring, Zheng Jiao's face became completely red. However, seeing that Zhao Fu seemed to be enjoying it, she also felt the same as Bai Yin. Looking at how flirtatious the two beauties were, Zhao Fu couldn't help but hug them and do it again on the bed. Zheng Yuqin, who had been resting at noon, was woken up by the sounds and went out to have a look. She cursed, "This bad boy is becoming more and more perverted. A few days ago, there was only one, and now there are two." Chapter 720. Zhao Fu looked at the two women who had fallen asleep and smiled. He put on his clothes and called Mu Gillen over to give him the information that Flower Moon had given him. This information mainly contained information about the various nation legatees. Qin had 31 regions, and there were 5 nation legatees. Qin had destroyed 2 and subdued 3, so of course there were other nation legatees in other regions as well. However, after Qin had continuously destroyed a few nation legatees, no one dared to casually reveal any information about them, as they were afraid that they would also be destroyed. By now, the nation legatees had all leveled up into basic cities, and Zhao Fu was not too surprised. After all, it had been a long time, and others had to develop as well. By now, some of the top-tier families had already leveled up into basic cities, let alone the nation legatees. Out of the 77 regions that Qin had destroyed, he had found information about 8 nation legatees. Zhao Fu wondered if they had relocated or not. For legatees with fate, they would have to pay a great price to relocate. However, compared to being destroyed, relocating was a better choice. Now, the player factions did not pose any threat to Qin at all. Moreover, the system factions would not ally with the player factions. With the system factions allying together to resist Qin, the nation legatees here did not even have the right to participate. Moreover, they had to worry because either side would act against them. After all, not only could Qin destroy them, but the system main cities could also destroy them. As such, they could only hide. Now that Qin had destroyed many regions, Zhao Fu did not know what had happened to the nation legatees. In any case, he did not see any nation legatees that had surrendered. Something else to note was that now that the regions had been opened up, players could freely go anywhere. Some places had many people, while others had no people at all. Some system main cities treated otherworlders well, so they would attract many otherworlders. Some system main cities slaughtered otherworlders, forcing them to flee. Now that the players had gathered together, their power could not be underestimated. However, Qin had reality-harming talismans, and with how afraid players were of dying, he did not have to worry much. However, he still had to be careful in case they caused trouble. After returning to the Heaven-Awakened world, Zhao Fu immediately ordered Qin's assassins to search the 8 regions to see if the 8 nation legatees had moved away. If they hadn't, they had to quickly kill them. In Zhao Fu's eyes, the legatees were like pieces of juicy meat, and he wanted to quickly destroy them. They were still quite useful to Qin. However, Zhao Fu had expected that they would have moved away, so he ordered Qin's assassin to investigate. One day later, Zhao Fu came to the Heaven Spirit Steel and was quite surprised that someone had completed the quest that he had given out. Zhao Fu placed his hand on the stone steel and chose to accept the item. The Heaven Spirit Steel gave off an intense violet light, and a thick book came out of it. That was how powerful the Heaven Spirit Steel was. No matter where it was, no matter how far it was, as long as one completed a mission, they would be able to obtain the mission rewards. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and caught the book. The violet light on the stone steel disappeared, and Zhao Fu glanced at the book. The book was 30 centimeters long, 15 centimeters wide, and 3 centimeters thick. The cover was green, and it gave off a grassy fragrance. The book was called List of Major Events, and below it was a summary of the major events that had happened in the Heaven Awakened world in the past year. This book was provided by the Holy Book Pavilion. The Holy Book Pavilion was one of the largest factions related to books, and they sold all sorts of books. For example, there were books about the cultures of different worlds, legends of different worlds, all sorts of customs, strange items, and even all sorts of pornographic books. Because of the huge variety of books they sold and the curiosity of the people, the Holy Library was undoubtedly very popular. It was said that the people of the Holy Library often appeared in the desolate areas and liked to collect stories and legends of the various new worlds. Only by doing this would the freshness of the books they sold not decrease, as they would always have new topics and content. Zhao Fu did not pay too much attention to this, and he curiously flipped through the book. Emperor Path College has loosened its restrictions this year, and it's expected that it will be recruiting even more students. Princes and princesses of barony kingdoms will also have a chance to enter. The Flowing Cloud Imperial Kingdom's princess, Yu Qiue, has married the Azure South Imperial Kingdom's fourth prince. Now, the two imperial kingdoms seem to be allied by marriage, and their relationship is quite close. The Battle Knight Kingdom has defended against the attacks of 5 royal kingdoms by itself. This is quite rare. A large-scale conflict has erupted between the Zuni Empire and the Moon Dawn Empire, and there's a strong smell of gunpowder on both sides. It looks like a big battle is about to break out. The Taoist sect has divined that an origin race has appeared in a remote region in the north. There were many different pieces of information recorded here, and all of them were incredibly important and had different effects on the Heaven Awakened world. Kingdoms below royal kingdoms did not even have the right to nominate anyone. Zhao Fu looked at the 5th piece of information. The Taoist sect had divined that an origin race had appeared in a remote region in the north, which made Zhao Fu feel quite shocked. After all, Qin City was in the north of the Heaven Awakened world, and Qin City also had an origin race, which was Tuoba Qing. The Taoist sect was one of the largest sects in the Heaven Awakened world and had a very high status. Zhao Fu wondered if the origin race had divined that it was Tuoba Qing. If it was, things would become quite serious. Zhao Fu had never thought that even the massive factions at the center of the Heaven Awakened world would pay so much attention to the origin race. After looking for a few more times and seeing that they were unable to divine Great Qin's exact location, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. With how big the northern side was, they most likely would not be able to find Great Qin. At the same time, Zhao Fu started to feel even more curious about Tuoba Qing's true identity. However, even the Golden Dragon could not find out about this, so Zhao Fu did not have the ability to find out. In actuality, these things were still quite far away from Qin City. Qin City had not even left the novice village, so there was no need for him to care about what was going on at the center of the Heaven Awakened world. Zhao Fu just wanted to know what the situation was like in the Heaven Awakened world. He did not want to be kept in the dark and suddenly perish without knowing the dangers. However, right now, Zhao Fu did not have much to do, so he could read this book and increase his knowledge. 2 days later, Qin City's assassin brought back some good news, which was that the 2 nation legatees had not been relocated. How could Zhao Fu let go of such a fat piece of meat that was right next to his mouth? He wanted information on 2 nation legatees, but he still dared to stay here. Chapter 721. In the early days of the Western Zhou dynasty, the vassal states were of different sizes, and the nobility of the monarchs varied. According to historical records, there were 5 levels of nobility: Duke, Marquis, Earl, Viscount, and Baron. Below the 5th level were the vassal states of the 6th level. They were smaller and usually belonged to the larger neighboring states. Chun Hagong was conferred the title of Marquis, so the state of Chun was one of the 12 influential vassal states between the Western Zhou and the spring and autumn period. However, it gradually declined in the later stages. First, it experienced 3 civil wars, then was destroyed twice, then restored. Finally, King Hui of Chu killed Chun Mingong, and the state of Chun was destroyed. From Gui Man's conferment to 478 BC, the state of Chun had a total of 25 generations, lasting 645 years. After the state of Chun died, Chen's son, Chun Wan, son of Chun Ligong Guiyu, became the Grand Chancellor of the state of Qi. His descendants took the surname Jiang and became the Marquis of Qi in 386 BC. Although the state of Chun was strong in the early stages, it was often bullied in the later stages. Even the restoration of the state of Chun was a charity from the state of Chu. Later, it was destroyed by the state of Chu and played with by the state of Chu several times. However, among the vassal states of the spring and autumn period, the state of Chun was considered average. The second state was the state of Dashi, established during the last years of the Ming dynasty. Many people might not have heard of it, but its founder was extremely famous. He was the murderous demon Zhang Xianzhong. Zhang Xianzhong, courtesy named Bingzhong, courtesy named Jingxian, nicknamed Yellow Tiger, was from Dingbian County, Shanxi Province. He was the leader of the peasant army at the end of the Ming dynasty and was as famous as Li Zicheng. He was the founding and only emperor of Dashi. Zhang Xianzhong was born in a poor family. He was smart and stubborn from a young age. He started a small business with his father, selling red dates. He worked as a constable and later came to Yinsui town to be a border guard. He was unyielding and loved to fight for justice, which nearly cost him his life. Later, his personality changed drastically. He became an extremely violent, cruel, and bloodthirsty person. He killed countless people in his life and regarded life as nothing more than grass. He even erected a monument, the 7-Kill Monument, on which was written, "All things in the world belong to man, but man has nothing to do with heaven. Kill, 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 kill." At that time, he was synonymous with terror. Whenever his name was mentioned, everyone's expression would change greatly. Fear would grow in their hearts, and they would flee upon hearing his name, not daring to stay for even a moment. He embodied the darkest side of the late Ming dynasty. Moreover, Zhang Xianzhong liked to use all kinds of cruel methods to kill people. His favorite method was skinning people, so he had a lot of human skins in his collection. It was unknown how many people had died under his skinning. This was rather famous in history. The Great Xi regime that he had established was definitely bloody and cruel. Many of his subordinates had also gathered people who took pleasure in killing. His army was also guilty of many crimes. Every time they captured a territory, they robbed a large number of women. Other than a few young women who were captured to serve as prostitutes in the camp, the rest were all killed for fear of affecting the morale of the army. Later on, the army was defeated and retreated in disorder. Due to the lack of rations, they killed women and pickled them to be used as rations for the army. Zhang Xianzhong himself was also very lecherous. Among the women he captured, he had to choose a few beautiful ones to sleep with. These beauties wore sexy clothes on their upper bodies and nothing on their lower bodies. No matter the time or place, as long as Zhang Xianzhong was in the mood, he would immediately order these beauties to lie on the ground and rape them. When he was tired of playing with them, he would wash them clean and kill them, steaming or boiling them to eat. Sometimes, he couldn't wait for these beauties to be cooked and would chew on them with blood. Bai Qi was famous for killing people in history, but he only killed soldiers. Because this was war, it was understandable. Another important point was that Bai Qi had never harmed the common people. Therefore, no matter how many people he killed, countless people still respected and worshipped him. They called him the Eternal General or the General of Slaughter. Zhang Xianzhong, on the other hand, was pure slaughter. He was absolutely crazy and twisted. When he slaughtered everyone, others would only feel fear and no respect at all. Zhang Xianzhong had called himself a king twice. The first time was in the 8th year of Ming Chongzhen, 1635 AD. Zhang Xianzhong called himself the emperor of the ancient Yuan dragon in Fengyang. In the 15th year of Chongzhen's second reign, 1642, Zhang Xianzhong established two new regimes in Shuqing and Luan with the name Tianming. Zhang Xianzhong proclaimed himself the Emperor of Shu with the name Deshi. Later, the Qing army invaded. Zhang Xianzhong led the main force of the Great Shi army and sacrificed himself in the battle against the Qing at Phoenix Mountain in Shizong. His adopted son, Kuku, became the supreme leader of the Great Shi army. In the fourth year of Qingqiao, 1651 AD, the Great Shi army was changed to the Yongle dynasty of the Southern Ming dynasty. Emperor Zhu Yulang joined the Great Shi army, and the Great Shi army became the core military support of the Southern Ming dynasty. In the 11th year of Yongle, 1657 AD, Sun Kuang surrendered to the Qing, and Zhang Xianzhong's other adopted son, Li Dinghua, became the core military commander of the Southern Ming dynasty. In the end, Wu Sangui killed the Yongle emperor in Burma and destroyed the Southern Ming dynasty. Li Dinghua died of illness, and the rest surrendered to the Qing. The Great Shi army struggle against the Qing ended, and the Great Shi regime faced destruction. Zhang Xianzhong's Great Shi and Li Ziqing's Great Shun were both regimes established at the end of the Ming dynasty and were destroyed by the Qing dynasty. The Qing dynasty unified China and became the last dynasty in China. Before, Great Shun had been destroyed by Qing, and now that Great Shi hadn't retreated, it would definitely be destroyed by Qing. Zhao Fu didn't put these two legatees in his eyes at all, so he gathered his forces and started to attack. Because the two legatees were in different regions and directions, Zhao Fu decided to split his forces into two groups. One group was given to Bai Qi to lead 60 city lords and 5 million soldiers west to destroy the state of Chun. The other group was led by Zhao Fu, and they headed east to destroy Great Shi. Zhao Fu was quite interested in Great Shi, and he didn't have much to do anyway. Bai Qi rode on his black forest horse and coldly looked down at the basic city. He waved his hand and gave the order to attack. Great Qing's soldiers were like a flood that ferociously charged towards the state of Chen City, their terrifying power sweeping through everything. The villages outside the state of Chen City weren't able to react at all, and they were completely inundated by the army of soldiers. The village's buildings were instantly destroyed, and the massive sounds caused the state of Chen City to fall into panic. Within the state of Chen City, a scholarly and weak-looking young man's heart sank. He came outside the city walls and looked at the black mass of soldiers, and he felt a wave of terror and pressure. The young man was called Chun Man, and he was the legatee of the state of Chun. Looking at the countless soldiers in front of him, Chun Man felt a wave of helplessness and despair. The state of Chen City now had 500,000 people, and 100,000 of them were soldiers. To ordinary soldiers, this was a massive number, but in front of Qin, they were like ants. Seeing Qin send out 5 million soldiers, how could Chun Man possibly defeat them? If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have cherished the fate and legacy. Chun Man felt quite regretful, and he was unwilling to leave this place. He didn't want to lose the state of Chen's fate and legacy. Chapter 722. But if he were to escape, where could he escape to? Would the next place be safe? Given how chaotic the world was, Chun Man did not have much confidence, which was one of the reasons why he had stayed. Perhaps submitting to Qin was not a bad idea. Chun Man did not want to fight for power, and he just wanted to live a peaceful life. He did not want any trouble or danger, and he would be able to solve all of this by relying on Qin. After thinking for a while, Chun Man saw that Qin's soldiers did not directly attack, and he let out a sigh of relief before saying to the others, "Put down your weapons, open the city gates, and invite Qin's soldiers in." Many of his subordinates were unwilling to do this, but they felt quite helpless. Qin was simply too monstrous, and they could only choose to die or surrender. Chun Man was the ruler of the Qin kingdom, so they naturally had to listen to his orders. They all put down their weapons and opened the city gates. Chun Man personally led his people out and knelt on the ground as he yelled, "I'm willing to submit to Qin." Even Bai Qi felt quite surprised. He had never thought that Chun Man would surrender before he had even said anything. It was the first time he had seen such a sensible person. Since things had been resolved so easily, His Majesty would most likely praise him. Thinking to there, a trace of smile appeared on Bai Chi's face as he came before Chun Man and said, "Get up. Since you're so understanding, I'll say a few more words to His Majesty and give you the title of ruler." Chun Man let out a sigh of relief and understood that things had been resolved and none of his subjects had died. Following this, Bai Chi officially took over the state of Chun. However, he did not have the ability to confer the title, and he had to wait for Zhao Fu to come or bring Chun Man to Qin for Zhao Fu to confer the title. Over at Zhao Fu's side, Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked down at a man with long black hair and blood-red eyes, who gave off madness and killing intent, and he said, "Do you think you can resist? I'll give you 5 minutes to consider whether or not to surrender." Now, Qin's 5 million soldiers had surrounded Great Western City and were prepared to attack at any moment. Right now, the number of people in the Great Western City had reached 600,000. Most of them were men, and there were no elderly, women, or children to be seen. Moreover, these men all had ferocious expressions and had a vicious air about them. They were definitely not good people and seemed to have been bandits or mountain bandits in the past. In front of Qin's enormous and terrifying army, they still wanted to fight with him. At the same time, their eyes were bloodshot and filled with killing intent. They didn't know why. "Haha, do you think I will surrender to you? So what if you were the Prince of Qin? Do you think I will be afraid of you?" The crazed man was Great Shi's legatee, and his name was Zhang Shisha. He held a blood-red sword and pointed it at Zhao Fu as he loudly laughed. He did not show any fear at all, and his words were filled with madness and arrogance. Zhao Fu's expression turned cold as he grabbed at Zhang Shisha. A formless energy surged towards Zhang Shisha. Zhang Shisha loudly laughed and pointed his blood-red sword towards the sky as his body gave off waves of blood-red light. A blood-red pillar of light shot into the sky, and a massive aura spread out, blocking Zhao Fu's formless energy. Roar! Countless traces of blood-red light descended from the sky as a blood-red dragon giving off a murderous and berserk aura appeared in the sky. It gave off a berserk dragon's roar that sounded out in all directions, causing all creatures to run for their lives in terror. Under Zhang Shisha's lead, Great Shi City's soldiers started to attack Qin. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed and gave the order to the 50 city lords around him, saying, "If they resist intensely, slaughter the entire city. There's no need to care about the population." Yes, the city lords obeyed and started to ferociously attack Great Shi City, unleashing powerful attacks and massacring the soldiers on the city walls. Qin soldiers gave off a terrifying aura as they rushed up, and arrows tore through the sky. Great Shi soldiers showed no fear and madly counterattacked. Even though they knew that they would die, they still attacked City Lord Qin or Qin's soldiers one last time. However, the difference in strength was still too great, and Great Shi's terrifying attacks against Qin seemed quite pitiful. The 50 city lords continuously slaughtered, and with the 5 million Qin soldiers, many of Great Shi's soldiers were killed by Qin. Zhao Fu did not look at the battle below, but at the sky, where the blood-red dragon gave off a terrifying aura. This dragon was over 30 meters long, but Zhao Fu felt that it was even more powerful than ordinary dragons that were 100 meters long. However, no matter how powerful it was useless because it was facing Zhao Fu. Clang, clang, clang. Zhao Fu did not hesitate and exploded out with all of his power. Tens of thousands of chains gave off the sound of metal clashing as they shot towards the blood-red dragon in the sky. The blood-red dragon roared as it savagely charged at Zhao Fu, giving off a large amount of blood-red light, wanting to block the countless chains. However, the chains contained immense power, and facing the blood-red light, they only slowed down slightly before instantly piercing through the blood-red light and binding up the blood-red dragon. Roar! 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 The blood-red dragon gave a massive roar as it madly twisted and struggled. Zhao Fu sent his emperor's power into the countless chains, making them even sturdier. Luckily, they seemed to have a life of their own and continuously wrapped around the blood-red dragon. Seeing that Zhao Fu was completely focused on the blood-red dragon, Zhang Shisha suddenly exploded out with a terrifying aura. A blood-red aura of flame erupted around his body, and he held a sword that gave off a sharp blood-red light as he turned into a ray of light and arrived in front of Zhao Fu in an instant. His sword gave off enough power to split mountains as it slashed toward Zhao Fu. Bang! However, at that moment, Zhao Fu's hand shot out like a bolt of lightning with immense power, causing an explosion to sound out as Zhang Shisha's throat was grabbed by Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu tightly gripped Zhang Shisha's throat, and Zhang Shisha stared at Zhao Fu as he gathered all of his strength and prepared to attack Zhao Fu. Gotcha! Zhao Fu's eyes flashed with killing intent, and he did not hesitate to twist his hand, snapping Zhang Shisha's throat. The blood-red dragon in the sky gave a mournful cry as its body turned into countless traces of blood-red aura and dissipated. Most of it was absorbed by the chains, and after absorbing the blood-red aura, the chains gave off an even colder aura. The king's crown had once again leveled up, and it was now legendary grade, making it even more powerful than before. On the battlefield below, 50 or so city lords rushed up, saber lights and sword images flying everywhere as they slaughtered. Some soldiers used arrows to resist, but they were completely useless. On the other side, Qin City soldiers also ferociously attacked. However, after these people were killed by Zhang Shisha, their battle intent became even more intense, and their resistance was incredibly intense. They did not show any signs of surrendering. As such, Zhao Fu could only kill them all. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Zhao Fu felt that these people were like mad dogs. There was only killing intent in their eyes, and they did not have any intelligence at all. Chapter 723. 1. This stone steel was 7 meters tall and 2 feet wide, and it seemed as if it had absorbed countless amounts of fresh blood. It gave off a dense, bloody aura, and there were words carved on it. All things in the world belong to humans, but humans have nothing to do with the heavens. Kill, 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 kill. Zhao Fu could sense its killing intent from afar, so he did not even go to the city hall, and instead went to the stone steel. This was most likely the legendary 7-kill steel. Zhao Fu stood under the stone steel, and when the 7-kill steel sensed Zhao Fu's aura, it immediately gave off an intense blood-red light. Zhao Fu immediately felt as if he was being devoured by countless amounts of fresh blood, and his aura became chaotic. His eyes became blood-red, and his heart was filled with boundless, crazed killing intent. After a while, Zhao Fu focused his mind, and his eyes regained clarity. His body broke out in cold sweat. The killing intent of the 7-kill steel was too strong, and with Zhao Fu's divine perception and the support of his sovereign bloodline, it was very easy for him to break free from the killing intent. An ordinary person's mind would definitely be affected, and they would descend into a frenzy of killing. However, this was most likely a rare treasure, and Zhao Fu looked at its attributes. 7-kill steel contains boundless killing intent, a killing treasure that can grow as one slaughters. It can bestow berserk killing prowess to soldiers. This was a treasure that could grow, and Zhao Fu was a little surprised. However, Zhao Fu did not really want to use it, as the 7-kill steel was indeed very powerful. The 600,000 people in the Great Western City should have been affected by it, and this effect would not be temporary, but long-term. Under the berserk killing prowess of the 7-kill steel, a person's personality would change greatly, and they would become extremely cruel and bloodthirsty. Zhao Fu could recover, but other soldiers would definitely not be able to. Zhao Fu did not want his soldiers to become a bunch of monsters that only knew how to kill, so Zhao Fu could only give up. However, Zhao Fu didn't destroy it. After all, it was a treasure that could grow and grow as he killed. Killing was what Qin did the most right now. The 7-kill tablet would grow very quickly in Qin's hands. It had great potential, and maybe it would be useful in the future. After putting the 7-kill tablet into his storage ring, Zhao Fu went to the city hall. He looked at the blood-red cube floating in the air and chose to occupy it. A blood-red pillar of light soared into the sky, dyeing the entire sky blood-red. A blood-red dragon let out a pained and unwilling cry, which resounded in all directions before turning into countless blood-red motes of light and dissipating. Notification: the Dashi kingdom was destroyed, and its karmic luck was devoured by Qin. Qin obtained a large amount of karmic luck. Notification: Qin destroyed the Dashi kingdom and obtained all of its inheritances. Notification: Qin's city heart has evolved. Notification complete. Qin Town will receive 1/5 of the Great Western City's attributes. System announcement: Nation armament, 12 metal colossi, nation-suppressing pillar, clan armament. Imperial ruler's seal: Qin's Emperor Sparrow has obtained a large amount of karmic luck and has evolved. System announcement: You have conquered a large city with a kingdom's legacy and obtained 5,000 achievement points. System announcement: You have relocated a large city and obtained 580,000 EXP. Zhao Fu glanced at the system announcements and didn't pay them too much mind. He ordered his people to clean up the battlefield, and he found out why there weren't any elderly, women, or children. It turned out that the elderly had all been killed, as they were useless and wasted food. As for the women, they were all locked up together and didn't wear any clothes. There were many bruises on their bodies, and their faces were numb and their eyes were hollow. It seemed that they had been tortured and humiliated. There were also other children who were locked up together and used as food reserves. Great Western City didn't have much food, and they didn't like to grow their own crops. They were like bandits, burning, killing, and robbing. These people are crazy. Zhao Fu couldn't help but curse when he saw this. He felt quite angry, and Zhao Fu admitted that he wasn't a good person. He could do anything to the outside world, but Zhao Fu definitely wouldn't harm his own people. Pack up all resources and take care of the women and children. Burn down the city and return to Qin Town. Zhao Fu gave the order, and the soldiers quickly gathered all resources and started to set the city on fire. The raging flames quickly devoured the city that was filled with madness and evil. After returning to Qin Town, Zhao Fu received news from Bai Qi and felt quite surprised. He had never thought that the state of Chun would be taken care of so easily, and he immediately headed to the state of Chun. Dong, 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 heavy and sorrowful drum beats sounded out throughout the northern side of the great northern continent, and the green dragon in the sky slowly turned back into a dragon python. Zhao Fu had given Chun Man the title of Lord and successfully taken over the state of Chun. Now that Qin Town had obtained 2 more legacies, it would provide a lot of fate for Qin Town. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your bestowment. Chun Man knelt on the ground, feeling incredibly nervous. This was the first time he had seen Qin's legatee, and he could sense the king's might that Qin's body gave off, making him feel incredibly shocked. Qin's legatee was an absolutely powerful existence, and he had never sensed such power from anyone before. Chun Man's king's aura seemed as lowly as that of a commoner in front of Qin's legatee. Get up. You're now a member of Qin Town, so Qin Town naturally won't mistreat you, Zhao Fu said with a trace of smile. Only then did Chun Man dare to get up. Zhao Fu had Chun Man take him around the state of Qin City and make some arrangements so that Qin Town could take complete control of the city. After taking care of these matters, Zhao Fu returned to Qin Town in satisfaction. This mission had finally come to an end. Following this, Zhao Fu refined the historical general's corpses that he had brought back from Great Western City and obtained the innate talent blood crystal before calling Zhang Han over. Because it had been a long time since he had conquered a legatee, Zhang Han's grade had always been SS grade, and he did not have a great general star. As such, Zhao Fu gave the innate talent blood crystal to him. Zhang Han was quite excited. Out of all of the historical generals in Qin Town, he was the only one who had not had a great general star. Zhang Han even suspected that he was not as important as the other historical generals in Zhao Fu's heart, and he had felt quite disappointed. He admitted that he was inferior to Bai Qi and Wang Jian. However, it seemed that this was not the case. After all, Zhao Fu had refined the historical general's corpses and called him over. It seemed that Zhao Fu still remembered him. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Zhang Han said gratefully as he knelt on one knee. Zhao Fu lightly smiled as he said, "All right, stand up. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Use the innate talent blood crystal and raise your grade." Zhang Han hurriedly stood up and used the innate talent blood crystal. Countless traces of blood red aura rose up, causing Zhang Han's body to go through changes. Soon, Zhang Han's aura became stronger, and his grade was raised to SSS grade, giving him a great general star. After taking care of these matters, Qin Town regained its calm, and the dragon's roars and drums continuously sounded out, causing the northern continent to once again become lively. Chapter 724. One who was the strongest in the northern side. Without even thinking about it, everyone knew that Qin had grown into a massive monster, and he opened his monstrous mouth and devoured everything in his surroundings. Right now, whenever people in the northern side saw him, they would feel fear. Whenever he appeared, countless factions would run for their lives in fear, and they would not dare to resist at all. This was especially so after he became the world protector, making it so that no one dared to resist. As such, wherever Qin went, it was a disaster for players. Even system main cities could not stop him, so ordinary players could only relocate. Luckily, the regions had been opened up, making it much easier for them to travel. Otherwise, it would be like before, a flock of sheep being chased around by Qin from one place to another, and that would be quite sullen. In actuality, countless people were quite displeased and furious towards Qin, and countless factions feared Qin. Qin was simply too great of a threat to them, and if it wasn't for the fact that Qin had the ability to massacre players, they would have once again gathered players to attack Qin. Even if the rewards this time were only 10% of what they had been before, there would still be many players joining in. It was a pity that Qin had the ability to massacre players, and he did not take the initiative to massacre them. Even though they were displeased with Qin, ordinary players could only endure it. No matter how much money those factions offered, they would not go because money was not as important as their lives. A few days later, it was time to go to the outside world to trade. Zhao Fu went to a hidden room, and Rahi was already waiting for him. "Miss Rahi, how many talisman stones have you prepared?" Zhao Fu asked as he smiled. Now that Qin had conquered so many regions, he had provided enough wealth for Zhao Fu to spend as he pleased. After all, they had obtained enough stage 1 corpses from the previous battle, so they did not lack corpses. This time, Zhao Fu had come to buy talisman stones, as Qin was severely lacking in talisman stones. Rahi looked at Zhao Fu and smiled as she replied, "This time, we're buying 3 million normal grade talisman stones, 100,000 blue grade talisman stones, 5,000 silver grade talisman stones, and 200 gold grade talisman stones." Hearing this amount, Zhao Fu was quite satisfied and said, "I'll take them all." Afterwards, Zhao Fu took out a storage ring filled with coins and gave it to Rahi. Rahi also gave a storage ring filled with rune stones to Zhao Fu. Because the two of them had traded many times, they didn't say much and quickly completed the transaction. "Customer, don't you need the corpses of soldiers this time? If you need them now, we can supply them in large quantities, and the price will be much lower," Rahi said with a smile. Hearing this, Zhao Fu's expression fell. There would not be so many corpses for no reason, and most of these corpses were stolen from the battlefield. What happened in the battle between the Devil Horn Empire, Lantong people, and Grassy people? Zhao Fu could not help but ask, "Is the battle over there so intense?" Rahi's smile became somewhat serious, and she sighed as she said, "The Grassy people and Lantong people worked together, but still lost in the end. We were heavily injured by the Devil Horn Empire, and we can only focus on defending." Hearing this, Zhao Fu's heart sank. Could it be that even the Lantong people and Grassy people working together could not defeat the Devil Horn Empire? If the Devil Horn Empire destroyed them, the human world would be next. Facing such a terrifying devil horn empire, even the Lontong people and Grassy people, who had developed for so long, could not stop it. How could the human world stop it? It was almost impossible for the human world to survive. However, another half-beast world has joined the battle. With the three worlds working together, we've temporarily stopped the Devil Horn Empire's invasion. At this time, Rahi spoke again. Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief and asked, "How many corpses do you have, and what's the price?" Qin definitely wanted corpses, and even if he did not lack them now, he would definitely lack them in the future. If the price was right, he would be able to buy some. Hearing that Zhao Fu was interested in buying corpses, a smile appeared on Rahi's face as she said, 10 million stage 1 corpses, 5 gold coins each. 1 million stage 2 corpses, 50 gold coins each. 80,000 stage 3 corpses, 300 gold coins each. And 3,000 stage 4 corpses, 1,000 gold coins each. Zhao Fu was quite shocked. He had never thought that the Swan Goose Group would be able to obtain so many corpses. Originally, Stage 1 corpses had cost 20 gold coins, Stage 2 corpses had cost 100 gold coins, and Stage 3 corpses had cost 500 gold coins. Now Stage 1 corpses had cost 5 gold coins, and Stage 2 corpses had cost 50 gold coins. This was much cheaper than before, and this was especially so for the 3,000 stage for corpses. Zhao Fu felt quite tempted, but he also felt quite pained. Even though they were much cheaper, it was still incredibly expensive. 10 million stage 1 corpses would cost 50 million. 1 million stage 2 corpses would also cost 50 million. 80,000 stage 3 corpses would cost 24 million, and 3,000 stage 4 corpses would cost 3 million. In total, this was 127 million, and this was in gold coins. Zhao Fu had felt quite rich from the gold coins he had plundered from countless system main cities. But now that he had to buy these corpses, Qin felt even poorer. "Dear guest, what do you think? This price is 5 times lower than before," Rahi said as she looked at Zhao Fu, who was deep in thought. Zhao Fu thought about it and felt quite pained. If he bought these corpses, Qin would not lack corpses for a long time, and he would be able to nurture a large number of Stage 2 and Stage 3 soldiers. In the end, Zhao Fu made his decision and said, "All right, I'll take all of these corpses." Rahi smiled and took out a few spatial rings filled with corpses. Zhao Fu also took out spatial rings filled with money, and the two of them quickly completed the transaction. "Dear guest, thank you for taking care of our business. We'll continue to provide you with talisman stones and corpses." After completing this massive transaction, Rahi was incredibly happy, and she gave a brilliant smile as she spoke to Zhao Fu as he prepared to leave. Boom! Just as Zhao Fu was about to reply, a massive explosion sounded out as the room continuously trembled. Following this, a cracking sound could be heard as the room collapsed. Rahi's face paled, and she instantly understood what had happened. Someone had suddenly attacked, and this place had a powerful magic formation protecting it. She had never thought that it would be destroyed by an outsider, and the attacker was incredibly powerful. Zhao Fu's expression became quite serious, and he unleashed his Emperor's domain to block the falling rocks and wood. By now, Rahi had come back to her senses and hurriedly said, "Let's hurry and leave. It must be because our deal was discovered by the officials." Chapter 725. One Rahi was not weak either, and she also had a basic city seal, so she escaped. Zhao Fu also turned into a ray of light and escaped in another direction. Seeing Rahi and Zhao Fu escape, the black-robed elder coldly harumphed and unhesitatingly chased after Zhao Fu. After all, Zhao Fu was his target, and he wanted to capture this mysterious person. Zhao Fu looked at the elder, chasing after him, and did not dare to stop. This was the Kershi kingdom, and if he stopped and attacked, he would have to face countless attacks. The other city lords' forces would also swarm over. When that time came, Zhao Fu would not be able to escape at all. If he attracted the attention of the Kershi kingdom's imperial family, Zhao Fu would definitely die. Even though Zhao Fu was powerful, he would not be able to resist a kingdom that had been established for decades. Unless he used the Earth Realm Seal's power, it would have its own consciousness. Unless the human world was in danger, it would not allow him to use it. As such, Zhao Fu could only run as fast as he could. He turned into a ray of light and shot through the air, his surroundings flashing by in an instant. The black-robed elder chased at full speed and felt quite shocked. He had never thought that Zhao Fu would be so fast. After chasing for a while, the black-robed elder realized that he could not catch up, so he slashed out at Zhao Fu, sending out an azure sword light, trying to stop Zhao Fu. As for Zhao Fu, he dodged to the side and did not fight with the black-robed elder. He knew that if he stopped now, he would not have a good ending. Seeing that Zhao Fu did not take his attacks head-on, the black-robed elder once again slashed out a few more rays of sword light, bringing with him a sharp sword wind as they flew toward Zhao Fu. However, Zhao Fu did not take his attacks head-on, and he continued to dodge. This made the black-robed elder feel quite furious, and he yelled, "Do you dare to fight, you imbecile?" Hearing the black-robed elder's words, Zhao Fu completely ignored him and continued to fly forwards. With Zhao Fu's current strength, dealing with the black-robed elder was not a problem. However, if he stopped and stalled for time, others would arrive, and Zhao Fu would be surrounded. As such, Zhao Fu was not stupid enough to stop and fight with the black-robed elder. Seeing Zhao Fu fly further and further away, the black-robed elder once again chased after him, but he still could not catch up. As such, he could only stop and furiously curse, "You cowardly rat!" Zhao Fu disdainfully looked at the black-robed elder and continued to fly forwards. The black-robed elder's Zhao Fu's eyes looked at the black-robed elder. A few hours later, Zhao Fu used the teleportation channel to return to the Legacy Land, and only then did he relax. He wondered how the Kershi Kingdom would treat the Swan Goose Financial Group after discovering that they had traded with him. Zhao Fu felt that nothing would happen, as the Swan Goose Financial Group was quite powerful. Moreover, they had only traded with Zhao Fu for talisman stones and corpses and had not done anything to harm the Kershi Kingdom. They had only broken the Kershi Kingdom's rules, so the Kershi Kingdom would not do anything to the Swan Goose Financial Group. However, Zhao Fu could not enter the Kershi Kingdom, as they had already discovered his existence. If he went in, it would be incredibly dangerous. In the future, he would have to go to other kingdoms to buy more talisman stones and corpses. Zhao Fu sighed and decided to wait for this storm to pass before going out to take a look. A few days later, Zhao Fu refined the Stage 2 and Stage 3 corpses and obtained a large number of Stage 2 and Stage 3 Blood God pills. Zhao Fu gave out these Blood God pills, and countless soldiers' cultivations quickly rose. Over the next few days, Zhao Fu looked at the various developments in Qin City. Since he had nothing to do, he decided to go to other basic cities to take a look. Even though he had soldiers to provide him with information, it was not as good as seeing things for himself. He could not just focus on Qin City. He also had to pay attention to the development of other cities. Following this, Zhao Fu went to Later Zhou City, and Nangong Shuiwei brought Kai Xiaowei and the others to the teleportation channel. "We greet your majesty." Seeing Zhao Fu arrive, everyone respectfully bowed. Zhao Fu looked at everyone and slightly smiled as he said, "There's no need to be so formal. I'm just here to take a look, and we'll be leaving soon." Everyone nervously stood to the side, and Nangong Shuiwei looked at her son. Kai Xiaowei understood and brought Zhao Fu around Later Zhou, telling him some of his thoughts about the future of Later Zhou. Zhao Fu smiled to express his approval. For this young man to have such thoughts, he was not simple at all, and he had the potential to be a good lord. After walking for a while, Zhao Fu felt quite satisfied and planned to head to the next city. However, Nangong Shuiwei insisted that Zhao Fu stay and rest. However, there were only Zhao Fu and Nangong Shuiwei in the room. Seeing that there was no one else, Nangong Shuiwei walked over to Zhao Fu and lightly hit Zhao Fu a few times with her fists, saying, "You heartless man, you didn't even come to see me in such a long time." Zhao Fu smiled as he hugged Nangong Shuiwei. Nangong Shuyue was a woman that Zhao Fu had acknowledged a long time ago, and he had kissed her and touched her. However, back then, Zhao Fu had not thought about these things, and he knew that later Zhou was developing quite well, so he had not come here. I'm sorry. Zhao Fu smiled as he said softly. Nangong Shuyue's eyes gave off a trace of flirtatiousness. Ever since she had done those things with Zhao Fu, her body had become even more empty. When Zhao Fu had left, she had wanted to do it with Zhao Fu, but she had tactfully refused. Now, she had been waiting for a long time. Then you have to properly compensate me. Nangong Shuyue's face became red as she hugged Zhao Fu's waist and looked up at Zhao Fu as she said in a small voice. Zhao Fu looked at this incredibly seductive woman and lowered his head to kiss her lips. Nangong Shuyue passionately responded, and the two of them started to do it. Nangong Shuyue's body had been empty for a long time, and her reaction was incredibly intense. There was no one else in the surrounding rooms, as Nangong Shuyue had given him instructions. However, Kai Xiaohui still came here, and he could hear the sounds of it, as well as his mother's moans. Kai Xiaohui couldn't help but grit his teeth and clench his fists, feeling incredibly furious. His mother's lewd moans deeply pierced into his heart, and he didn't even need to look to know that his mother was being ferociously done to by Prince Qin. Kai Xiaohui had long since known that his mother had become Prince Qin's woman, and that was why his uncles, who had hated him in the past, had suddenly become fond of him and supported him as the ruler of later Zhou. Hatred and anger filled Kai Xiaohui's heart, but when he thought about his mother's gentle and loving appearance, Kai Xiaohui realized that everything his mother had done was for him. How could he hate his mother? Moreover, his father had passed away so quickly, and his mother had single-handedly taken care of the family. Why couldn't she have her own life and satisfy his needs? Chapter 726. One afterwards, Nangong Shuyue lay on Zhao Fu's body with her face completely red. Thinking about how wild she had been just then, Nangong Shuyue said shyly, "Your Majesty, did you think that I was very lewd before?" Zhao Fu could not help but laugh. Thinking about how Nangong Shuyue looked like a dignified and virtuous woman, she had such a lewd side to her, so he smiled and nodded. Nangong Shuyue's face became completely red, and she lightly hit Zhao Fu a few times before asking in a small voice, "Did you like it?" Zhao Fu looked down at her flirtatious appearance and nodded. Being virtuous in front of others and lewd in bed was quite unique. A happy smile appeared on Nangong Shuyue's face before she lightly harumphed and said, "What if I want you in the future? You won't come to find me often, and who knows how long it'll be before we meet again." There were still many members of the Chai family in later Zhou City, and they were all players. Zhao Fu was afraid that information about Qin City would be leaked, so he forbade all members of the Chai family from entering Qin City. However, Qin City's people could come to later Zhou City whenever they wanted. The situation was quite different to before. Qin City had already constructed the inner Great Wall, so there was nothing to worry about. As such, Zhao Fu said, "You can come to Qin City whenever you want." Nangong Shuyue happily nodded and smiled as she kissed Zhao Fu's cheek and said shyly, "I'll go every day then." Zhao Fu lightly laughed and lifted Nangong Shuyue's chin as he asked, "Do you want more?" Nangong Shuyue looked at Zhao Fu with her eyes and blushed as she lightly nodded. She wanted to satisfy her body that had been empty for over 10 years. Zhao Fu smiled and agreed to her request before continuing to do it, and soon the sky darkened. In a certain location in the northern continent state of Su, ripples spread out like water. A beam of black light shot out from the center of the ripples, and a black-robed young man with a powerful aura appeared in the sky. He had an oriental face and black pupils. He had long, black hair and a handsome face, but it was incredibly cold and emotionless. His body gave off traces of demonic qi, and his aura was incredibly terrifying. In front of him, a powerful demon lord seemed to be nothing. After entering this place, Zhao Fu started to examine this world. He sensed that there were large numbers of creatures gathering around him. So he hid his aura and flew forwards before arriving at a system main city. What made him a little surprised was that apart from most of the people here, there were a few who looked similar to him. Could they be his clansmen? He tried to sense them, but he didn't find any devil chi on them. It seemed that they just looked alike. Since there was someone who looked like him, there was no need for him to hide his appearance. In fact, with his status, he disdained to do so. When he arrived at the main street, he walked on the main road while examining the city and carefully looking at everyone. A few well-built, muscular Caucasian men looked at the black-clothed man and looked quite displeased. One of the Caucasian men cursed. "What are you looking at? Asian monkeys? Be careful, or I'll stuff your head into cow dung." Zhao Fu stopped and coldly looked at the muscular men. Even though he couldn't hear what they were saying, he could sense that they were insulting him. The muscular men were used to doing as they pleased here, and seeing that this Asian monkey dared to stop and coldly look at them, they were infuriated. They had always taught this Asian monkey a lesson, so they picked up their iron rods and savagely walked over. He still did not move and coldly watched as the big four men walked over. One of the big four men looked at him and ferociously swung his iron rod toward his head. Killing an Asian here was not a big deal at all, and it was like killing a dog. The iron rod brought with it a strong gust of wind as it swung towards him. He stood there motionlessly until the iron rod was about to hit him. A strong gust of wind suddenly blew past. The burly man who attacked him was cut into countless small pieces and then collapsed like a sand sculpture, the pieces of flesh scattered on the ground. Seeing this scene, the other burly men were so scared that their legs turned to jelly and they collapsed to the ground, looking at him in fear. These burly men actually did not have much ability, but they relied on their burly bodies to bully ordinary people. They were people who bullied the weak and feared the strong. His cold gaze looked at the remaining strong men, who immediately knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. "Sir, I was wrong. Please let us go." However, he was not moved and slowly raised his hand. A person suddenly stood up. It was a Chinese person, and he tried to persuade him. "Let them go. This is their territory, and if we offend them, we'll all be suppressed by them. It's best to know our place and not cause any trouble." This Chinese person had been abroad for more than 10 years, and he had long since seen the hidden rules. This was something that most Chinese people understood. If they wanted to live here, they had to be well-behaved and not cause trouble. If they did anything to resist, not only would they be ostracized by the white people, but they would also be threatened. If they could not obtain any benefits here, they would be flooded by haters in China, who would think that they had lost face for China. You have to be at an absolute disadvantage. If you don't retaliate when others hit you, you have to be the absolute weakling. Only then will the Caucasians sympathize with you. The people in the country will also sympathize with you. Of course, there will still be brainless haters who will say that you deserve it for running overseas. This was the rule here, and the Chinese here were used to it. The other Asians were also used to it. However, the black-clothed young man did not hesitate and grabbed at the air, causing the heads of the strong men to explode like watermelons. Blood and brains splattered everywhere. The Chinese person's expression fell, and he felt that he had caused trouble. A bunch of pitiful worms. They're tarnishing our race. The black-clothed young man looked at the Chinese person, as well as the other Asians who did not want to cause trouble, and he felt a trace of disgust. He spoke in a language that he had never heard before, and he lightly waved his hand, causing his sharp blade to blow out like a wild gale. Everyone present was chopped into pieces, and the stench of blood spread out. Instantly, a few teams of soldiers sensed this and looked at the black-clothed young man standing at the center of the corpses, and they started to attack. The black-clothed young man coldly harumphed and slashed out with his sword. A black sword chi flashed out, decapitating all of the soldiers. Blood spurted out from their necks, and they fell to the ground dead. After killing these people, the black-clothed young man did not stop and continued his massacre because he hated everything here. Boom! Chapter 727. 1. The black-clothed young man condescendingly looked at the city lord and stretched out a hand. Countless traces of demonic chi flowed out, forming a massive demonic hand that gave off a ferocious demonic might as it grabbed towards the city lord. The city lord was given a big fright and sensed danger. He immediately tried to dodge, but not only was the demonic hand incredibly fast, but it also had a restrictive power. The city lord tried to dodge to the side, but his body became incredibly slow and was unable to move quickly. The demon's hand grabbed onto the system city lord's body, and in the next second, it squeezed. A bang sounded out as the system city lord's body exploded, causing blood and flesh to fly everywhere. A Silverstone City Lord seal appeared in the black-clothed young man's hand. Looking at this City Lord seal, the black-clothed young man looked quite interested. Sensing that the City Lord had been killed, the other system main city soldiers furiously rushed over. Everyone else did not know what had happened, but they felt that the situation was quite bad, so they started to run for their lives. Seeing this, the black-clothed young man felt quite impatient and raised his hand. Countless traces of demonic chi flowed out and formed a black orb that was as big as a fist. This black orb gave off a terrifying demonic intent that could cause anyone's heart to feel a chill. The black orb spread out and covered the entire system main city. Demons gave off ear-piercing howls as they appeared and started to kill everyone within. Soon, the entire system main city fell deathly silent. Within a tavern, a chubby middle-aged man said in a low voice to the people around him, "Did you know? The nearby Moonlight City was suddenly massacred, and not a single person was left alive. What's more, they died incredibly horribly. Some people were torn to shreds, others were skinned, and some people had their stomachs cut open with their organs ripped out. They looked incredibly pitiful, and I don't know who did it. It's so inhumane." Another person looked terrified as he said in a low voice, "I personally went to take a look. It was like hell, and there were broken corpses everywhere. The stench of blood was enough to make people want to vomit. That was the most terrifying scene I've ever seen. Who do you think did this?" The nearby city lords have all gone to investigate, and 3 hours ago, nothing happened to Moonlight City. Then there was suddenly no news, and 3 hours later, 400,000 residents and 200,000 players were all killed. Someone said with curiosity and fear. Another person said, "I heard that it was done by a Chinese player who revived in the real world." This news has already spread, and the internet is now full of people scolding the Chinese. I've heard about that too. The person who massacred the city looks like a Huaxiao person. There was even a Huaxiao person who spoke to him before. He's definitely a Huaxiao person. Isn't that Huaxiao man a little too much? He slaughtered so many of us for no reason, and his methods are still so cruel. It's really infuriating. There's nothing we can do about it. China is too powerful right now, and Prince Qin has become the world protector. China is lawless now, and they don't care about anyone at all. I feel like that person is Prince Qin. Only he can be so powerful and cruel. Everyone else nodded in agreement. Even in the northern continent, they had long since heard of Qin's imperial prince's ferocious reputation. As such, they agreed because he was the biggest suspect in this matter. After all, this wasn't something an ordinary person could do. The matter of Moonlight City being instantly massacred caught the attention of many people in the northern continent. After all, 600,000 people had been slaughtered without a single survivor, and this was quite a big matter. However, no one had investigated the true identity of the person who had slaughtered the city. It seemed that he had suddenly appeared, but he had black eyes and black hair. He was definitely an Asian, and the biggest suspect was a Huaxiao person. However, no one knew why such a ferocious person had suddenly appeared in China and slaughtered an entire city in such a cruel and merciless manner. Even though the biggest suspect was Prince Qin, there was no evidence, so no one could say anything. The northern continent was incredibly big, and it was only a system main city that had been slaughtered. In actuality, this matter wasn't too big. It could only be counted as an unknown, mysterious matter, and everyone only discussed it out of curiosity. After leaving Later Zhou City, Zhao Fu continued to look around, and he found that everything was going quite well. Apart from some nation legatees who retained some autonomy, the other cities and villages were all developed according to Prince Qin's plans. This was mainly because of Li Si and Shang Yang, the two internal affairs ministers, who had managed everything in an orderly manner. Shang Wanwan and Lu Lingxian had also helped a lot. Of course, there were also the newly promoted talents, such as Zhang Lingwei, Zhao Feng, Zhou Henan, Li Yuna, and Yueru. Following this, Zhao Fu went to Mountain Willow Town. This was the first town that Zhao Fu had conquered, and it was now an advanced town. It would most likely become a basic city soon. When Zhao Fu arrived, Lu Subai was already waiting for Zhao Fu. "Your Majesty." Lu Subai happily bowed to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly smiled and nodded before following Lu Subai around Mountain Willow Town. They met a few familiar people, such as Sun Xiaowei. He was now the commander of Mountain Willow Town's guards, and he led some soldiers to maintain order and safety. The others had different positions, and Zhao Fu had helped Lu Subai take back Mountain Willow Town. Zhao Fu had some impression of them. Now that their statuses were different, they treated Zhao Fu with even more respect. Following this, Zhao Fu was brought into a room by Lu Subai. He had just experienced this with Nangong Shuiwei, and Zhao Fu instantly understood what this meant. At that moment, Lu Subai lightly hugged Zhao Fu and said shyly, "Your Majesty, please take me as your wife. Please accept me. I want to be your woman." Zhao Fu laughed. He had long since known that Lu Subai had feelings for him, but he hadn't reciprocated. Seeing how she looked, he hugged her and asked, "Do you really want to be my wife?" Lu Subai shyly nodded and said in a small voice, "Your Majesty, I've waited for you for so long. I've been waiting for you for so long. I thought you wouldn't like me, so I had no choice but to forget you and marry someone else. Today, I'll pluck up my courage and try one last time. If you don't touch me, I'll give up." Seeing the adoration in her eyes, Zhao Fu felt a trace of reluctance when he thought about how a beauty like her was going to marry someone else. Thinking about what he had done before, he wondered if he had been taking advantage of her. Desire was something that was difficult to control, especially after cultivating the sixth desire celestial art. Chapter 728. Lu Subai's face became bright red as she shyly nodded. Zhao Fu picked her up and brought her to the bed. They took off their clothes and started to do it. After a loud moan, Lu Subai powerlessly lay in Zhao Fu's embrace, looking at Zhao Fu shyly and sweetly. Zhao Fu lightly hugged her, and seeing her like this, he asked, "Are you happy?" Lu Subai smiled as she replied, "Of course I'm happy. Your Majesty, you're finally willing to accept me. How could I not be happy?" Zhao Fu felt quite apologetic. He had clearly felt a trace of possessiveness, but he had ignored her. He felt that he was quite shameless and despicable. "I'm sorry," Zhao Fu said. Lu Subai smiled as she shook her head and said shyly, "Your Majesty, you don't need to apologize. You've already made it up to me, and I'm very satisfied. Waiting for so long was worth it." Zhao Fu looked at her and did not say anything. He tightly hugged Lu Subai, and Lu Subai also tightly hugged Zhao Fu. After cuddling for a while, Zhao Fu left Mountain Willow Town. After patrolling a few more places, Zhao Fu returned to the Great Qin Town the next day. By then, he had finished patrolling the Great Qin Town, and he felt that Nan Gongshue's debauchery in bed and Lu Subai's innocence had all just happened. 10 or so days later, Qin City had cleared out the 4 regions, and his strength had greatly increased. During this period of time, some System City lords had joined Qin City. Time gradually passed, and the situation became more and more severe. The natural disasters became more and more powerful, and people started to become more and more chaotic. Not only were there rewards, but there were also all sorts of items being stolen. Now, the legacy land had become even more cruel. Qin continued to send various envoys. With the advantage of Qin's strength, he continued to make friends with them and expressed his sincere and friendly intention to recruit them. This made it so that the situation around Qin did not occur again. where the system main cities allied together to resist Qin. Even if there were some who wanted to resist Qin, they would not be able to threaten Qin. This time, 12 castellans joined Qin. These castellans wanted to avoid the natural and man-made disasters, but they also knew that they couldn't stop Qin's expansion. Now, Qin had 300 or so city lords, and its strength was about the same as 100 regions combined. If Zhao Fu wanted to suppress it, he would need the power of 400 regions. Just roping in 400 regions would be incredibly difficult, and whether or not they could defeat Qin was another problem. If it was destroyed by Qin, then Qin's power would become even more terrifying. With the support of terrifying power, it would definitely not be as easy to deal with as it was now. They did not want to worry about these things and directly chose to join Qin. They had heard from the city lords who had submitted to Qin that they would be treated quite well, so they did not hesitate. Zhao Fu was quite satisfied. There would be a system main city joining every few days, which was what Zhao Fu had wanted to see when he sent people out. There were also 18 ginseng trees that bore ginseng fruits, each bearing 300 or so ginseng fruits. In total, there were 5,000 or so ginseng fruits. Zhao Fu kept a small portion for himself and continued to plant the rest, hoping to create more ginseng trees. Apart from this, there was another good thing, which was the fate-changing pill. When destroying Heavenstone City, Zhao Fu had obtained the core material for the fate-changing pill from the rock giant, which was the fruit of life. After such a long time of cultivation, the tree of life now had more than 10,000 trees. Each tree could bear 9 fruits of life, so 10,000 trees could yield 90,000 fruits of life. In other words, they could concoct 270,000 fate-changing pills. Qin was about to mass-produce S-grade people, and this made Zhao Fu feel incredibly excited. Having a high grade meant that one's cultivation would be faster, and they would have greater comprehension and power. Now, Qin could instantly produce 270,000 S-grade soldiers. After all, an S-grade person was usually a village chief, which showed how important S-grade people were. Even though Qin now had 200 million people and 30 million soldiers, 270,000 S-grade people were still incredibly important to Qin. After all, in the future, high-grade soldiers would be trained by them, and only then would Qin have the power to contend with other high-grade countries. However, Zhao Fu still had to continue to nurture the fruit of life. 270,000 fate-changing pills were still not enough to satisfy Qin's requirements, as Qin now had 30 million soldiers and was still rapidly increasing. Moreover, the fruit of life only bore fruit once a year, so it was evident that it was not enough. Zhao Fu wanted to use the fruit of life while nurturing the fruit of life. After all, the earlier they obtained the fruit of life, the better it would be. That way, their cultivation speed would be faster, and their cultivation would also be higher. Zhao Fu had to praise Zhang Baishu. He had always been in charge of this, and he had successfully fulfilled Zhao Fu's requirements. After dealing with these matters, Zhao Fu smiled and returned to the real world. He still did not see Zheng Yuqin, so Zhao Fu started to eat. After hearing that Zhao Fu had returned to the real world, Mu Gillen took out some information and gave it to Zhao Fu. As Zhao Fu ate, he looked at the information in his hands and looked at the various countries in China, as well as the various major events that had happened. Proxy family leader. There's also a report from the northern continent. 600,000 people in a system main city were slaughtered in an instant, and their methods were incredibly cruel. Many factions in the northern continent believe that it was done by Qin's legatee. Mu Gillen took out another document. This was not the information that Zhao Fu had requested, but because it concerned Qin's legatee, Mu Gillen had also prepared a copy. Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite strange. Why had he suddenly become a scapegoat? How could he have a time to go to the northern continent and slaughter an entire city? Zhao Fu only thought about it and did not say it out loud. Mu Gillen had never expected the person sitting in front of him to have such a status. Zhao Fu curiously took the information and looked at it. Zhao Fu had black hair, black eyes, and gave off demonic qi. His methods were incredibly cruel. and this made Zhao Fu feel a trace of a bad feeling. Zhao Fu looked at where Moonlight City was, and he was given a big fright, and his expression became incredibly serious. Seeing Zhao Fu's expression greatly change, Mu Gillen inwardly felt quite startled. However, he also felt quite strange. This piece of information was clearly framing Qin's legatee. Now, there were many cowardly people who would push powerful, abnormal, and strange things on a Qin's legatee. This had happened many times, and he had shown it to Zhao Fu before, but Zhao Fu had not cared at all. However, why had Zhao Fu's expression greatly changed after seeing this fake information? Could it really have been done by Qin's legatee? If it really had been done by Qin's legatee, why had Qin's legatee gone to the northernmost region to slaughter a city? Mu Gillen inwardly guessed, but he did not dare to ask. After all, he was just a minor figure in charge of collecting information, and if he got involved in too many things, he would definitely die. Chapter 729. When he first had to confirm whether or not this was done by the demon race. If this had happened anywhere else, Zhao Fu would not have cared, but Moonlight City's location was too special. It was at the northernmost part of the northern continent, and if the northern continent stretched out, it would be the demon race's world. Black hair and black eyes were the characteristics of the demon race in the Heaven Awakened world. Many demon race people had black hair and black eyes because their demonic qi was a type of darkness which affected their bodies. Chinese people also had black hair and black eyes, which was quite a coincidence. However, they most likely did not have anything to do with the demon race, as Chinese people were pure humans and did not have any demonic qi in their bloodlines. Before, Zhao Fu had paid special attention to information about the demon race's world. After all, the demon race's bloodline was more powerful than that of the human race, and they were incredibly cruel and bloodthirsty. As such, their battle intent was incredibly strong, and it was very difficult for ordinary people to defeat them. The human world was at a disadvantage, and Zhao Fu was worried that something would happen. The most terrifying thing was that the demon race would invade. Now that a black-haired, black-eyed person giving off demonic qi had suddenly appeared and slaughtered an entire city, Zhao Fu immediately thought that the demon race had entered the human world. However, why could the demon race enter the human world? Zhao Fu thought about it and realized that he could also leave the legacy land. Why couldn't he? The identity of the demon race that had entered the human world was not simple at all. Zhao Fu felt that he had to personally investigate this. The situation outside the legacy land was quite tense, and Zhao Fu did not want the demon race to invade at a time like this. That would be a disaster for the human world. If the human world started a fight with the demon race, their strength would be greatly reduced. If that happened, how would they defend against the grassy people and the even more powerful Devilhorn Empire? Even though Zhao Fu did not want this to happen, this matter was the first sign that the demon race was about to invade. Moreover, should he tell the other 8 legatees about this? As the 8 legatees, the 8 most important people in the human world, they naturally received system announcements from the Heaven Awakened world and knew some things about the outside world. However, they only had a rough understanding and did not know as much as Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu thought it was better to investigate the matter clearly first and then find them. If it was really done by the Devil Tribe, then the invasion of the Devil Tribe in the future would not be a matter of Qin alone, and the whole human world would suffer. Without hesitating, Zhao Fu returned to the Heaven Awakened world. Now that Zhao Fu had the transworld teleportation formation, he could cross worlds. Heading to the northern continent was no problem at all. After stepping onto the teleportation channel, Zhao Fu's vision blurred, and he felt a bit dizzy. Now, Zhao Fu was on a mountain, and Zhao Fu sensed his surroundings before flying toward the system main city. Looking at the golden-haired and blue-eyed foreigners in front of him, Zhao Fu understood that he was in the northern continent. The northern continent was the Great Hua Kingdom's territory, and if the demon race invaded, the Great Hua Kingdom would be the first to suffer. Zhao Fu did not know if the people here had noticed this, but he hoped that it was not done by the demon race. After all, this matter was simply too dangerous. After arriving at Moonlight City for 10 or so days, the corpses here had not been cleaned up, and they gave off a dense stench. However, it was possible to see how pitiful the people below had been. It was indeed like a bloody massacre. Zhao Fu went to the center and spread out his emperor's domain, covering the entire city. Traces of pure, demonic qi floated out from the surroundings. Sensing this demonic qi, Zhao Fu's expression became cold. These people from the demon race were simply too unbridled and did not place the human world in their eyes at all. Not only had they slaughtered an entire city, but they had also not tried to hide it at all. Now, Zhao Fu was completely certain that it was done by the demon race. After all, only the demon race could have such pure demonic qi. Boom! Zhao Fu retracted his emperor's domain, and a blinding white ray of light containing searing power shot toward Zhao Fu. It was incredibly fast, and it reached Zhao Fu's side in an instant. At that moment, Zhao Fu expressionlessly waved his hand, once again unleashing his emperor's domain, easily blocking this ray of light. Jeffrey coldly stood in the air and looked at Zhao Fu as he said, "Just who are you? Why did you slaughter so many people?" Zhao Fu rolled his eyes at Jeffrey and said, "It's me." Jeffrey's expression immediately fell, even though he could not see the cloaked figure's appearance. After hearing that bone-chilling voice, Jeffrey knew who it was. He immediately yelled, "Don't come over. That person is Prince Qin." The few people who were originally flying over turned around and ran when they heard this sound. "Prince Qin, this place is so far away, and they most likely did not offend you. Why did you kill them so cruelly?" Jeffrey said as he looked at Zhao Fu angrily. Zhao Fu looked at the people running away and then at Jeffrey, feeling quite speechless as he said, "Do you think I did this?" Jeffrey coldly harumphed, "Prince Qin, don't try to quibble at a time like this. The domain you used before was the same as the one that slaughtered Moonlight City." After suddenly being blamed, Zhao Fu felt quite angry and said coldly, "I didn't do this. It was done by the demon race in the other world. When the time comes, your Mei Kingdom will be the first to suffer, and I won't care." Ordinary people would not understand what Zhao Fu was saying, but Jeffrey's expression became quite serious. He was different from ordinary people and knew what the Heaven Awakened world was like. There were countless worlds outside. Hearing the words demon race in the other world, Jeffrey felt quite nervous. Prince Qin definitely knew more than him, and he already knew that it was the demon race in the other world. Jeffrey thought about it and believed that this was not done by Zhao Fu, and his expression became quite awkward as he said, "I'm sorry. Great Qin's legatee misunderstood you. Can you explain this in detail?" Seeing that he was one of the 8 legatees, Zhao Fu did not make things difficult for him and told him about this matter. Hearing this, Jeffrey's expression became incredibly serious because it was highly likely that the human world would soon be invaded by the demon race. When that time came, the entire human world would fall into a crisis. What do we do now? Should we notify the others? Since this concerned the survival of the human race, Jeffrey could not help but let Zhao Fu take the lead and ask for instructions from Zhao Fu. In his heart, he understood that during this period of time, Zhao Fu was the most important person. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided that it was definitely done by the demon race. Now that the human world was facing the threat of the demon race's invasion, he had to discuss this with the others. Qin could not defend against the invasion of an entire world, so Zhao Fu nodded and decided to notify the other legatees. Chapter 730. One Tina Pendragon was the first to arrive. Seeing Jeffrey standing next to a cloaked figure, Tina Pendragon naturally guessed who that person was, and her expression became even more serious. Now that Prince Qin had personally acted, this matter was definitely quite dangerous. Is this true? Was the incident in Moonlight City done by the demon race? Tina Pendragon asked seriously as she walked up. Jeffrey nodded earnestly as he said, "Prince Qin knows quite well about this. He already knows that the other world is the terrifying demon race world." Tina Pendragon looked at Zhao Fu in front of her and understood that he knew more than them. After all, Not just anyone could become a world protector. Prince, Tina Pendragon stood next to Zhao Fu and softly called out. Zhao Fu turned to look at her and nodded before saying, "After everyone else arrives, I'll explain it to you all." Tina Pendragon nodded and stood next to Zhao Fu, waiting for everyone else. Time gradually passed, and Akhenaten and CG had already arrived. However, no one else had arrived, so everyone could only continue to wait. Tina Pendragon stood next to Zhao Fu. This was the first time that she had been so close to Zhao Fu, and she could not help but look at him. Even though Zhao Fu was wearing a cloak, and she could not see his appearance, she could sense that his aura was incredibly dangerous. Moreover, his power was able to suppress her king's power, which was even more powerful than king's power. However, apart from this, Prince Qin was silently standing here. Even though he was facing something as dangerous as the demon race's invasion, it made people feel at ease. Standing next to Zhao Fu and lightly smelling his scent, Tina Pendragon could not help but think about how she had been violated by him in the illusion. Thinking about this, Tina Pendragon blushed, which she rarely did. Following this, the others finally arrived. They all looked quite serious and understood how serious the situation was. They all looked at Zhao Fu. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Zhao Fu said, "I've been outside and know some things. The situation is not looking good, so listen to what I have to say." Hearing that Zhao Fu had gone outside, everyone's hearts thumped and they looked shocked. They immediately wanted to ask what was going on outside, but after hearing that the situation was not looking good, their expressions became serious and they listened. Zhao Fu could not decide anything by himself, so Zhao Fu did not want to hide anything. He said, "The world before us is called the grassy world. There are 40 or so grassy people living there, and they're preparing to invade the human world at any time. However, they are not the true threat. The Devil Horn Empire next to us is a dukedom kingdom, and it is a dukedom kingdom. It has invaded the other worlds, and the three worlds have to work together to stop. If they conquer the three worlds, or just destroy the grassy world or the grassy world, they will be our kingdom. To them dragon, to world to them. This is the greatest threat, and with how powerful the Devil Horn Empire is, our human world will not be able to stop it at all. Next, there are other dangers. To the north of the human world is the demon race world, while to the south is the water race world. This world is separated by the southern continent, and the water race only lives in water, so there's no need to worry about danger for now. The demon race world in the north is the second greatest threat. The demon race's battle power is one of the strongest out of the 8 major races, and they are incredibly ferocious and aggressive. It is inevitable that they will invade the human world, and there will be no surprises. Apart from explaining the dangers that the human world would face, Zhao Fu also gave some information about the Heaven Awakened world, such as the levels of the kingdoms and the 8 major races. After hearing Zhao Fu's words, everyone felt incredibly shocked. They had never thought that the human world would be so dangerous. They were also shocked that Zhao Fu knew so much and was willing to tell them so much. With this information, they would be able to save a lot of time and effort. Jeffrey looked at Zhao Fu and said, "Legatee Qin, I apologize for my actions from before. Back then, the human world chose you to be the world protector, and I couldn't understand why they would choose such a cruel and ruthless person like you. Now, I've changed my opinion. You're someone who cares about the world, and compared to us, you are indeed more suitable to be the world protector." Everyone else inwardly sighed. Not only did Legatee Qin's power far surpass theirs, but he also had far more information than them. Masanori Hano looked at Zhao Fu and smiled as she said, "I knew that he wasn't a cruel and ruthless person." Zhao Fu did not mind their words and asked, "What do you all think now? How will you deal with what happens next?" CG replied, "Right now, we're mainly facing the threat of the demon race. After the Heaven Awakened world devours the real world, the world barrier will disappear, and our human world will be completely connected to the demon race's world. No matter if the demon race invades now or in the future, the human world and the demon race will definitely fight." Akhenaten said, I agree with this idea. The human race and the demon race will fight sooner or later, so we need to make preparations. I believe that the northern continent needs to build a demon defense wall to stop the demon race's invasion, and we also need to prepare things that can counter the demon race. Otherwise, with how powerful the demon race is, it will be quite disadvantageous for us. Everyone else agreed with this idea. Facing the terrifying demon race's invasion, they had to make preparations. Otherwise, if they fought, the human side would be at a great disadvantage. Tina Pendragon thought about it and said, right now, we also need to understand some information about the demon race. We can't just passively defend. If we understand some information about them, we can also take the initiative to attack. That way, the human world will not be invaded. Everyone else agreed with this idea, but there was a problem. Who had the power to obtain information about the demon race's world and even enter it? Everyone looked at Zhao Fu. Right now, only Qin's legatee had this ability, and the 8 of them could not do anything. They had never even been to the outside world, so they could only rely on Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu did not refuse because he had long since decided to go to the other side to have a look and understand some information. As such, he nodded and agreed. Seeing that Zhao Fu had agreed, everyone let out a sigh of relief. After all, they were going to an enemy world, which was quite dangerous. Moreover, the other side was in an unknown state, making it even more dangerous. After discussing for a while, everyone prepared to leave. Legatee, be careful. Chapter 731. One facing Tina Pendragon's concern, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised, but he still lightly nodded in response. Akhenaten looked at Zhao Fu and Tina Pendragon, not knowing what he was thinking. However, he understood that this matter was quite dangerous, and they were willing to take such a big risk to obtain information for them. This was worth respecting. Crown Prince, you have to be careful. Akhenaten stood there and smiled as he said courteously to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly nodded. Because they were all from China and there had been many conflict between them, CG's expression was quite complicated. He didn't know what to say, so he looked at Zhao Fu and didn't say anything before leaving. The others were quite afraid of Zhao Fu, and this was especially so for Oleg, who had been bullied by Zhao Fu the most. He didn't even dare to talk to Zhao Fu in fear that Zhao Fu would suddenly go berserk and beat him up. After everything was over, he let out a sigh of relief and ran away as fast as he could. Emperor, be careful. Be careful, Masanori Hanno said as she smiled and looked at Zhao Fu with a trace of genuine concern. Zhao Fu gave her a simple reply, and after everyone left, Zhao Fu returned to Qin City and prepared to head to the demon race world. Standing at the center of the magic formation, Zhao Fu looked at the door and wondered if it could allow him to enter the demon world. Even though he could leave the legacy land, he had to go to another world. There were 2 heaven domain boundaries here, and he wondered if he could pass through them. Zhao Fu looked at the door and saw that Zhao Fu was in a daze. Zhao Fu tied the Sky Demon's sword to his waist and used the Sky Demon's power to conceal himself. That way, he wouldn't be able to reveal his identity as a human. After stepping through the world gate, Zhao Fu felt a massive force pulling at his body, causing his head to ache. His vision blurred, and he found himself in another world. Zhao Fu did not know whether it was day or night in this world. The light was quite dim, and the sky was gray. Most of the plants around him were black, and a few were blood red. They looked quite strange and different from normal plants. In this world, there was demonic energy everywhere. To ordinary people, this demonic energy would feel cold and stinging, but to demons, this was a paradise. The Sky Demon soared at Zhao Fu's waist, sensed the demonic chi, and became excited, causing it to tremble. Since he did not know the way, Zhao Fu casually chose a direction and did not choose to fly because he was too big of a target. Moreover, Zhao Fu felt that the demon world was filled with killing intent, so he decided to be careful and slowly explore. A few hours later, Zhao Fu heard some movements in the forest and released a powerful aura that covered that region. A few people immediately ran out in fright and knelt on the ground, saying some words that Zhao Fu could not understand. Zhao Fu was prepared, and he used a language stone to record this language, which was called the Dark Demon language. Afterwards, he automatically learned this language, and he was able to understand what they were saying. From this, he found out that the demon race in this world was called the Dark Demon race. At that moment, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised because apart from the demonic qi that they gave off, they looked quite similar to Chinese people in terms of appearance and clothing. Most of their weapons were made of bone. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised because he found that apart from the demonic qi that they gave off, they looked quite similar to Chinese people. "You may rise," Zhao Fu said as he looked at the people. The people hurriedly stood up and timidly stood to the side, not even daring to breathe too loudly. The Dark Demon race believed in the survival of the fittest. Even though Zhao Fu did not use his City Lord Seal's power, he still had stage 6 cultivation, and his immense power made it so that they did not dare to resist at all. "I've just arrived here and don't know much about the situation here. Tell me about it." After practicing the Dark Demon language a few times, Zhao Fu spoke proficiently. There were 4 men and 2 women in front of him, and one of them, who seemed to be the captain, said, "Sir, this is the gloomy region. This is the gloomy region, and we're currently near Calming Soul City." Zhao Fu could hear that this person's voice was quite ancient and didn't sound like a player's. It was impossible for indigenous residents to form teams to kill demon beasts, so Zhao Fu felt quite confused. He pointed at another person and asked the same question again. That person didn't understand why Zhao Fu would ask this again, but with Zhao Fu's strength, he could only obediently reply and speak in an ancient voice. Zhao Fu had some guesses and said, "I'm a writer, and I like to listen to all kinds of stories. If you tell me everything that has happened since you were young, not only will I not kill you, but I'll also reward you with a large sum of money." In order to verify his guess and understand more about the Dark Demon race, Zhao Fu made up a lie. The others let out a sigh of relief. This person only wanted to listen to their stories and would not kill them, and he would even reward them. This made them feel quite delighted. Following this, everyone started to tell their stories, and Zhao Fu listened attentively, obtaining a large amount of useful information. Zhao Fu was able to confirm his suspicions. They spoke with an ancient voice and were not indigenous people. The only reason was that they had lived in an ancient world, which was why they spoke like this. This made Zhao Fu feel quite startled, because most of these ancient worlds were cultivation worlds. In other words, it was a world where people could cultivate. Ordinary worlds were split into 2 types of evolution. One was cultivation, and the other was technology. Earth walked the path of technology, but technology was completely forbidden in the Heaven Awakened world, and no technology could be used. However, talismans and magic items were not restricted at all, and they could be used as they pleased. Compared to a cultivation world and a technological world had a massive disadvantage. Firstly, their bodies were weaker and they were unable to develop technological items. On the other hand, because cultivation worlds could cultivate, their innate stats were quite good. Moreover, in the real world, as long as one was proficient in all sorts of arts and martial skills, they would be able to obtain them in the Heaven Awakened world. Moreover, in terms of bloodlines, the technological world's bloodlines would become weaker and weaker, while the cultivation world's bloodlines would become stronger and stronger. There was a great difference in overall strength. The other places were roughly the same as the human world. The world was split into regions, and each region had a different city. They could also choose to return to the real world, where they had experienced the chaotic world. At the same time, they had chosen 7 legatees to control the fate of the Dark Demon world. Their progress was about the same as the human world. Apart from this, their grasp of all sorts of talismans, formations, and arts was much more advanced than the human world. They did not need to buy things from the Heaven Awakened world and could directly set up powerful formations. Anything from the real world could be used in the Heaven Awakened world. That was the benefit of a cultivation world. The system here was also different. The dark demon world not only had powerful kingdoms, but also powerful sects. Some sects were far more powerful than kingdoms, and they could even destroy a few kingdoms. Chapter 732. Zhao Fu obtained a lot of information from them and did not kill them. He only gave him a bag of gold coins before walking towards peaceful Soul City. A young man smiled as he walked home. This young man was called Yi Song, and he was an outer court disciple of the Demon Path sect. Even though he was an outer court disciple, that did not mean that his talent was not good. In other people's eyes, he was definitely a genius. However, in the Demon Path sect, he did not seem that outstanding. After all, the Demon Path sect was one of the largest sects in the southern continent of the Dark Demon world, and it was incredibly powerful. It was a place where countless geniuses gathered. So Yi Song, who was a genius in the eyes of ordinary people, was just an outer core disciple in the Demon Path sect. Yi Song came from a small mountain village. His mother was a great beauty, and his adoptive father was a famous, kind-hearted person. Their family got along very well, and Yi Song quite liked that small mountain village. Because everyone got along well, Yi Song had received a lot of help from them. Yi Song planned to go back and ask his mother about his background because a few days ago, he had obtained the Night Dynasty's legacy. The Night Dynasty was an ancient dynasty that had hundreds of years of history. It was incredibly powerful and was one of the most powerful existences in the southern continent of the Dark Demon world. What was important to note was that the Night Dynasty was an ancient kingdom that still existed, and it had its own subjects and soldiers. After entering the Heaven Awakened world, those subjects and soldiers were still loyal to the Night Dynasty. From the very beginning, the Night Dynasty had 100 million people and 5 million soldiers in the Heaven Awakened world. To have this kind of strength from the very beginning, and after developing in the Heaven Awakened world for so long, adding on the fact that the Night Dynasty was one of the most powerful factions in the real world, its strength in the Heaven Awakened world was quite terrifying. In just a single continent, the Night Dynasty's strength could rank in the top 5, and in the entire Dark Demon world, it could rank in the top 15. It was one of the most powerful factions in the Dark Demon world, and its strength caused countless people to fear it. However, a month ago, when the Night Dynasty's legatee had broken through to the Demon Origin realm, he had suddenly gone berserk and died, shaking the entire southern continent. A dynasty's legatee had a massive amount of fate, and yet he had died so easily. This shocked countless people, and the Night Dynasty's royal clan was even more furious. They felt that an enemy faction had used some sort of curse to kill the legatee. As such, the Night Dynasty had continuously sent out soldiers to attack 3 dynasties and a sect next to it. A few large battles had erupted between the two sides, resulting in many casualties. Now, they were at a stalemate, and this was not only in the real world but also in the Heaven Awakened world. It was a pity that the legatee had died, and there was no way to revive him. This legatee had been quite famous in the Dark Demon world and had great potential. He was one of the strongest kings in the future, and now that he had died so easily, everyone felt quite sad. Now that the Night Dynasty's legatee had died, the Legacy Stone once again activated a trial. Back then, Yi Song did not understand what was going on. He had been killing demon beasts in the Heaven Awakened world when he had suddenly been pulled into the trial space and obtained the Night Dynasty's legacy. Yi Song was quite shocked. How could he obtain the Night Dynasty's legacy? He had come to a small village, so how could he have contact with the Night Dynasty? Yi Song felt that his identity was not simple, so he went back to ask his mother what was going on. Thinking about becoming the Night Dynasty's legatee, Yi Song could not help but feel incredibly excited. In the future, his identity would be quite illustrious, and he would have great authority. This caused him to smile for the next few days. As he got closer and closer to the village, Yi Song suddenly felt that something was off. The village seemed to be deathly silent, and there was not even the sound of chickens or ducks. This was quite strange. Yi Song became wary and slowly crept over. He found corpses on the ground, and they all belonged to villagers. Yi Song felt quite furious, and he thought about his adoptive father and mother, so he hurried back home. What he saw next caused his eyes to feel as if they were going to explode. His adoptive father's body lay in a pool of blood, and a few big, naked men were doing his beautiful mother. His mother continuously cried out and struggled, but she could not resist at all and continued to be raped. Immediately, Yitsong furiously rushed out and killed these animals. However, he could sense that their cultivations were at the demon martial realm, and he could not even defeat a single one of them, let alone 5 of them. By now, the people had finished venting and casually killed Yitsong's mother. Looking at his mother, who was covered in blood and had died with grievances, Yitsong tightly clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with hatred as he forced himself to calm down and continued to hide in the grass. If he rushed out now, not only would he not be able to take revenge, but he would also lose his life. If he died, he would never be able to take revenge for his parents. It's been a few days. Why hasn't that boy come back yet? Let's kill him so we can report back and have the legacy stone open another trial. One of the big men said unhappily as he put on his clothes. Another person coldly harumphed. He should be back soon. Let's get rid of the corpses and continue waiting for him. Hearing their conversation, Yitsong finally understood what was going on. However, how could they know that he was a legatee? Yitsong felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him, and he came back to his senses. He had only told one person about this. She was the demon path sex Mo Yaoer, the #1 beauty in the southern continent and ranked 3rd in the dark demon world. She was incredibly bewitching and could cause countless men to go crazy over her. She was the daughter of the demon path sex sect master and had a prestigious status and outstanding talent. However, he had trusted her so much, so why had she betrayed him? She was the first woman that Yitsong had liked and the first woman that he had gone crazy over. Yitsong truly loved her and would do anything for her, even if it meant giving up his life. Yitsong felt as if his heart was being torn apart, and tears flowed out of his eyes as he felt as if he was suffocating. Whoosh! Yitsong accidentally made some noise, and the people in the room immediately sensed it and cried out, "There's someone outside!" At that moment, Yitsong came to his senses and ran to the side. The big men quickly caught up, and seeing that he could not escape, Yitsong hurriedly jumped down a ravine. Arg! The ravine was 20 or so meters tall, and even though Yitsong sent his cultivation power into his legs, they were still broken, causing him to cry out. Seeing this, the big men were delighted and planned to go down from another side. After all, jumping from such a high height would injure their legs, and now that Yitsong's legs were broken, he definitely would not be able to escape. Yitsong looked at the big men and decided to enter the Heaven Awakened world. He had obtained a true body stone in the Heaven Awakened world, which could allow his body to enter the Heaven Awakened world. Back then, he had been afraid that he would not be able to see his mother and adoptive father, so he had not used it. Chapter 733. After entering the Heaven Awakened world, Yitsong took out the true body stone and used it. In the real world, his body was covered by a ray of light and slowly disappeared. This made the big men feel quite furious. The person who had been right in front of them had disappeared, allowing Yitsong to escape. The big men angrily looked around but could not find any traces of him, so they could only go back to report. After hearing about this, the higher-ups deduced that Yitsong had most likely entered the Heaven Awakened world, so they ordered people to collect information on him. At the same time, they offered a reward of 100,000 gold coins. Anyone who killed Yitsong and took his head would receive the reward. Yitsong's body in the Heaven Awakened world fused with his body in the real world, and his broken legs were mostly healed. They were not as serious as before, and he could walk for a bit. Yitsong immediately took out some medicine and started to treat himself. A day later, Yitsong's legs were completely healed. He understood that he would most likely be hunted down by the Night Dynasty, so he put on a cloak to hide his appearance. After coming to a nearby city, news of Yitsong's whereabouts had already spread. Anyone who killed him would receive 100,000 gold coins, which was quite a large sum of money. Countless people started to search for Yi Tsang, and the Night Dynasty's people also arrived. Seeing this, Yi Tsang did not dare to stay in the city. Luckily, it was now possible to travel between system main cities, so Yi Tsang immediately used a teleportation channel to leave. 5 days later, Yi Tsang desperately ran through a forest. He had never thought that he would meet someone from the same sect here, and that person was on good terms with him. As such, that person immediately recognized him and had brought a group of people to kill him. Yi Tsang had a few wounds on his body, and blood continuously flowed out. Right now, he could only run or die. His face was twisted with rage and hatred. As Zhao Fu walked towards peaceful Soul City, he saw a group of people chasing after a young man. Zhao Fu looked over and did not plan to act. After all, who knew if he was a good person or an evil person? Moreover, they were enemies of the human race. The Golden Dragon suddenly said, "That person has a nation's fate and is most likely a dynasty's legatee. However, he hasn't completed the final succession and is only half a dynasty's legatee." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite confused and asked, "What does that mean?" The Golden Dragon explained, "You've obtained the Legacy Stone's approval, but you haven't reconquered the city." This made Zhao Fu even more confused. The Golden Dragon rolled his eyes at Zhao Fu and explained in detail, "After the first inheritor dies, the inheritance stone will choose another owner. He should have obtained the identity of an inheritor in the second trial." However, he had only obtained an identity and not any power, as the Legacy Stone was no longer with him. He needed to return to that city and reclaim the Legacy Stone. That way, he would be officially acknowledged and receive a massive amount of fate. He would also be able to use the nation's fate. However, as long as he's killed, the Stone of Inheritance will start another trial and choose a suitable successor. After hearing the Golden Dragon's explanation, Zhao Fu understood what was going on. However, Zhao Fu still did not plan on attacking because he had come to obtain information and did not want to get involved in any trouble. This matter concerned an entire country, and if he got involved, it would be easy for his identity to be revealed. Moreover, helping him would not bring him any benefits and would only bring him endless trouble. Perhaps he could help him obtain a nation legacy and form an alliance. Alternatively, he could subdue this person and develop a faction within the Dark Demon race. If he had a powerful chess piece, it would bring him great benefits in the future. However, Zhao Fu did not trust the Dark Demon race. After all, they were people from two different worlds, and even if they signed a contract, it would be removed by some powerful item. Zhao Fu was not sure if this person would completely submit. After all, he was a nation legatee. Moreover, the legatee was most likely heavily guarded, and it was hard to say whether or not Zhao Fu would be able to help him obtain the legatee. After all, he was someone from another world, and if this was revealed, he would definitely be attacked by the entire world. The Golden Dragon understood what Zhao Fu was thinking and said, "You can possess him and turn him into your clone. That way, you will be the nation legatee." Zhao Fu felt quite delighted and had never thought that there would be such a method. However, this was a world of cultivation, so it would be quite easy for him to be discovered. You can possess his consciousness, and no one will be able to discover it because his body and soul will remain the same. The Golden Dragon once again answered Zhao Fu's questions. However, Zhao Fu felt quite curious and asked, "Possession is taking over someone else's body, but how do you take over their consciousness?" The Golden Dragon explained, "It's like this. You need to wipe away his consciousness and then split off a bit of your consciousness. The process might be quite painful, and you can then inject your consciousness into his soul to take over his body. However, this requires him to be willing, as even a higher being cannot wipe away a person's consciousness without damaging their soul. All right, hurry and save him. Hurry up and save him. He's going to die." Zhao Fu came back to his senses and looked up, saying, "Yi Tsang has already been surrounded." Yi Tsang furiously looked at the person in front of him and said, "Jiu Longli, I treated you like a brother, but you brought people to kill me. I treated you like a brother, and I never thought that you would bring people to kill me. Zhu Longli coldly laughed and said, "Sorry, it's your fault for being so valuable. As a brother, shouldn't you help your brother out one last time? You're definitely going to die anyway, so let's all attack together and kill him." Hearing this, everyone prepared to attack, and Yi Tsong fell into despair. He had thought that obtaining the Knight dynasty's legacy would be an incredibly good thing, but he had never thought that things would turn out like this. He would die here before he could even take revenge for his parents and village. At that moment, a sword arc flashed out, and 10 or so people's heads flew into the air. This caused Yi Tsong to feel quite startled, and he saw a cloaked figure appear in front of him. "Thank you," Yi Tsong said coldly, understanding that it was this person who had saved him. Zhao Fu lightly nodded. Looking at Yi Tsong's twisted face that was constantly filled with hatred, Zhao Fu felt that he had an opportunity, so he started a chat with Yi Tsong and told him his goal. After all, wiping away Yi Tsong's consciousness required Yi Tsong to be willing. "How can I trust you? What if after you take over my body, you don't help me take revenge?" Yi Tsong said as he coldly looked at Zhao Fu. If there were no good people in the world, then this person had not saved him out of kindness and had instead lusted after his body. Yi Tsong's words did not seem quite right and seemed to have some other ambiguous meaning, but Zhao Fu really did want his body. Chapter 734. Yi Tsong looked incredibly shocked. He had never thought that this person would be another world's world protector. The world protector was someone who stood at the peak of the world and was incredibly powerful. Their Dark Demon World's world protector was also incredibly terrifying and could cause people to feel terror. Why had another world's world protector come to the Dark Demon World? There was definitely a massive scheme that would greatly affect the Dark Demon World. This was because this person wanted to use his body as a disguise so that no one would be able to discover his true identity. He would be able to hide in the Dark Demon World and do whatever he wanted. With the World Protector's power, this would definitely be a disaster. However, Yi Tsong did not care anymore. The survival of this world had nothing to do with him, and he felt that the entire world had betrayed him. Since this person was the World Protector, he had the power to help him take revenge. "No matter what I want you to do, as long as it's within your power, you'll be able to do it." Yi Tsong's face was twisted and filled with madness and hatred as he savagely laughed. Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded seriously. Yi Tsong started to madly laugh as he loudly said, "Good, I agree to give my body to you, but you have to help me do the following things. The first thing is for you to destroy the Yi family and do all of their women. The second thing is for you to destroy the Demon Path sect and turn that bitch called Mo Yao Er into a slave." Hearing Yi Tsong's words, Zhao Fu did not understand why he was acting like this. However, after thinking about it, Zhao Fu felt that this was something that could be done, so he agreed. Seeing that Zhao Fu had agreed, Yi Tsong relaxed and continued to madly laugh. He trusted that Zhao Fu would definitely help him take revenge. Thinking about everything that the Yi family had done and how the woman he loved had become a slave, Yi Tsong continuously laughed. Yi Tsong continuously laughed as his heart ached and tears flowed out of his eyes. Zhao Fu silently waited by the side. After a while, Yi Tsong calmed down and looked quite lonely and dispirited as he said, "Let's begin. I willingly give my body to you." Zhao Fu nodded and brought Yi Tsong to a hidden cave. He had Yi Tsong lie on the ground and started to wipe away his consciousness. Zhao Fu had unlocked divine sense, so his mental energy was not weak at all. It flowed into Yi Tsong's mind like water. Yi Tsong struggled in pain, and as Zhao Fu's mental energy continuously invaded his body, Yi Tsong's struggles became weaker. In the end, his face became lifeless, and he lay there like a corpse. Zhao Fu then followed the Golden Dragon's method and began to divide his soul. This process was also very painful, dozens of times more painful than cutting his flesh with a knife. Time became incredibly long, and after 3 or so hours, Zhao Fu finally divided a trace of his soul. He felt as if he was about to collapse, and Zhao Fu sent the soul, which was a dot of light that was as big as a mung bean, into Yi Tsong's head. The dot of light entered Yi Tsong's head and grew tentacles that stretched into a massive orb of light. This orb of light was Yi Tsong's soul, but it had no consciousness and was incredibly lifeless. However, as the dot of light entered, the orb of light once again became lively. At that moment, Zhao Fu felt as if he had two bodies, which was quite strange. He tried to control Yi Tsong, but he was not very familiar with it, and Yi Tsong's body crashed to the ground. Of course, this did not make Zhao Fu feel discouraged, and he spent the next few days getting used to it. Because he had successfully taken over Yi Tsong's body, Zhao Fu had obtained all of Yi Tsong's memories, so he knew most of the information about the Dark Demon world. He also knew why Yi Tsong hated the Dark Demon world. What shocked Zhao Fu was the Night Dynasty. He had never thought that it would be so powerful. If he could take over the Night Dynasty as the legatee, Qin's power would become monstrous. He would also be able to use the Night Dynasty's power to expand in the Dark Demon world and become one of its overlords. With its help, if the Dark Demon world invaded in the future, Zhao Fu would be able to use the Night Dynasty to kill them. This was incredibly important to Qin. Even though this was quite dangerous, it was worth it for Zhao Fu to do. After all, he would be taking a risk for himself, and the rewards would be great. At the same time, this was not a simple matter. First, he had to figure out how to infiltrate the Night Dynasty city and how to control it. Right now, the Night Dynasty city was a mixed system, with both indigenous residents and players. The indigenous residents and system main city soldiers only listened to the legatee's orders and not the Yi family's orders. Their historical generals were the same, and they were only loyal to the person who had obtained the legatee. This gave Zhao Fu an opportunity to seize power. However, the Night Dynasty was a kingdom in the real world, and the soldiers and generals in the real world became the Night Dynasty soldiers and generals in the Heaven Awakened world. They were loyal to the Yi family, and if Zhao Fu wanted to seize power, they would be the greatest obstacle. Moreover, even if he was able to control the Night Dynasty in the Heaven Awakened world, what would he do in the real world? If he could control it, it would be of great help to the Night Dynasty in the Heaven Awakened world. If he could not, they would madly attack the Night Dynasty in the Heaven Awakened world. This would cause great trouble for the Night Dynasty in the Heaven Awakened world, and Zhao Fu did not want to see this. Moreover, Zhao Fu could not enter the Dark Demon world's real world. Zhao Fu thought about it, and found that he still lacked information, so he could not make any plans. Zhao Fu left Yi Tsong here for now, before heading to the various large cities to collect and buy information about the Night Dynasty. This was not too difficult. As long as one had money, one could obtain any information. The following was the information about the Night Dynasty. First, it had 150 million or so people. 100 million of them were players, which are the subjects of the Night Dynasty in the real world. The other 50 million were indigenous residents. Of these, 12 million were soldiers, 7 million were player soldiers, and 5 million were system soldiers. If Zhao Fu conquered the Night Dynasty, no matter if it was in terms of population or military strength, they would be at a disadvantage. Once the two sides clashed, Zhao Fu's side would most likely lose. After all, even with the support of 50 million residents and 5 million soldiers, Zhao Fu was only one person and a few historical generals, while the other side had countless generals, countless ministers, and many people from the Yi family. If the two sides fought, Zhao Fu would not be able to control everyone, while the other side could cooperate and attack. This matter was not easy to deal with, and Zhao Fu thought for a while before deciding to return to the human world and discuss this with Qin and the other generals. As for the quest to obtain information about the Dark Demon world, it had been completed perfectly. After feeling dizzy, Zhao Fu once again returned to the human world and gave some of the information he had obtained to the other legatees. Of course, it was only some rough information and did not include anything about the Night Dynasty. Chapter 735. A few days later, Zhao Fu once again brought people to the Dark Demon world. This time, The people he brought were all disguised, and there was a large amount of demonic qi around them to prevent their identities from being exposed. Zhao Fu now had a good plan. His first targets were the Night Dynasty's 5 ancestors. These 5 ancestors were the Night Dynasty's ancestors, and because it was a cultivation world, they could obtain immense power and lifespans that were much longer than ordinary people. The Night Dynasty's 5 ancestors had naturally reached the highest realm in the dark demon world, which was the demon origin realm. They could live for 300 or so years. The oldest of the 5 ancestors was 326 years old, and they were just as monstrous. They had fused their bodies with the Heaven Awakened world, and their cultivation in the real world had fused with their bodies in the Heaven Awakened world, giving them stage 8 power. They were even more powerful than ordinary great city lords. The 5 of them also had great city seals, and their strength was not as simple as 1 + 1. Each of them could fight 7 or 8 city lords, and their strength was quite terrifying. Within the Night Dynasty, the 5 ancestors held a lot of power, and they were split into different factions. It was quite common for a dynasty to have many factions. Zhao Fu did not want to go through too much trouble, so he directly acted against the 5 ancestors who held the most power. A letter was delivered to a woman. She was tall and slim, and she was extremely beautiful. Her skin was snow white, and she wore a violet dress, giving off a cold and noble aura. She was the Night Dynasty's youngest ancestor and was already 128 years old. However, she still looked like she was 20 years old. She was called Yi Ning Shuang, and she had been the Night Dynasty's eldest princess. She had extraordinary talent and had been the Night Dynasty's #1 beauty. Looking at this letter, Yi Ning Shuang's expression became somewhat serious. This letter contained a trace of the Night Dynasty's legacy fate, and the person who had written this letter was most likely that legatee. Yi Ning Shuang had heard some information about this legatee. He was the current emperor of the Night Dynasty, and he had gone out to take care of a commoner's daughter. Back then, he had not paid much attention to this matter and had forgotten about it. He had never thought that such a thing would happen. Of course, Yi Ning Shuang did not support someone with such a lowly background who could not even compare to 10% of the previous legatee. Almost no one supported him, and they all agreed to kill him before letting the legacy stone choose. Even though she had wanted to kill him, she had not succeeded. Apart from some information a few days ago, she had not received any other information. She had never thought that he would write to her. The content of the letter was that he wanted to meet her at night in a forest outside Nether City. He had something important to discuss with her, and he wanted her to come alone or else he would leave. Yi Ning Shuang coldly laughed. She knew what he meant. He definitely wanted to use her to obtain the position of successor. However, Yi Ning Shuang was already determined to kill him. As someone who was already at the top of the pyramid of the world, there was nothing for Yi Ning Shuang to fear. Zhao Fu passed through the legacy formation and quickly arrived near Nether City. He flew towards the forest and quickly found Yi Tsong. After seeing Yi Tsong, Yi Ning Shuang did not hesitate and slashed at the air with her finger. An extremely sharp, cold light containing terrifying power flashed through the air and arrived in front of Yi Tsong. This cold light could instantly kill stage 3 soldiers, so Yi Tsong naturally could not block it. At that moment, a black-cloaked figure suddenly appeared in front of Yi Tsong and easily blocked the attack. Yi Ning Shuang's expression became cold, and she could sense that Zhao Fu's power was not simple at all. Just as she was about to use her power, Zhao Fu suddenly exploded out with his full power. A terrifying aura flooded out, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. This power caused Yi Ning Shuang to feel quite startled. She had never thought that this black-cloaked figure would be so powerful, and it seemed to be above her own. This was a trap. She had been too careless. Yi Tsong was just a lowly villager. How could he have such an expert protecting him? Yi Ning Shuang suddenly thought of something and said coldly, "Sir, this is a matter between the Night Dynasty. This is a matter between the Night Dynasty. It's best if the Demon Path sect doesn't get involved." Yi Ning Shuang thought that Zhao Fu was someone from the Demon Path sect, but she was not wrong. With Yi Tsong's identity, only the Demon Path sect would help him. Their goal was most likely to use Yi Tsong to control the Night Dynasty. However, Zhao Fu lightly laughed and did not reply. He stretched out a hand towards Yining Shuang, and suddenly, resplendent motes of star-like light appeared in the sky. There were 36 of them in total, and they exploded out with shocking power. In that instant, the air seemed to freeze. Yining Shuang's expression fell, and she immediately turned to run. This power was not something that she could resist, and she could sense that each star represented a City Lord Seal's power. However, she was too late. The 36 stars' terrifying power smashed into Yi Ningxuang's body like a mountain. Yi Ningxuang blocked with all her might, but she was still knocked down from the sky. At that moment, countless chains stretched out and bound Yi Ningxuang up and hung her 1 meter in the air. Zhao Fu controlled Yi Tsong and smiled as he walked over, saying, "Ancestor, I'll give you a chance. Now, I'll give you a chance. Listen my orders and serve me." Yi Ningxuang coldly looked at Yi Tsong and said mockingly, "You want to be the Night Dynasty's legatee? You're not qualified. I won't submit, and I won't let the Demon Path sect scheme succeed." Yi Tsong sinisterly laughed and pointed at Zhao Fu as he said, "This person isn't from the Demon Path sect. He only listens to me. Soon, he'll let you experience what happiness is." Zhao Fu controlled Yi Tsong to say these things in order to increase Yi Tsong's strength and make it more intimidating to control the Night Dynasty. Hearing Yi Tsong's words, Yi Ningxuang felt quite startled. She had never thought that he wouldn't be from the Demon Path sect, but where did he come from? Why did he have such power? Could he be from another continent? If so, why did he listen to Yi Tsong? She could not understand, but hearing Yi Tsong's final words, Yi Ningxuang felt that something was off and started to struggle. However, Zhao Fu came before her and looking at her beautiful face, Zhao Fu lightly laughed and started to caress her face. Yi Ningxuang vigorously struggled and said with a trace of killing intent, "If you dare to touch me, I'll kill you and make you die a horrible death." Zhao Fu ignored her words because most of the women he had slept with said the same thing. But in the end, they were saying the opposite. Zhao Fu lowered his head and kissed Yi Ningxuang, and the 6 desires' demonic qi continuously flowed into her body. Yi Ningxuang struggled a few times and quickly sank into it, passionately responding to Zhao Fu. Following this, Zhao Fu released the chains and took off her clothes before starting to do it. What surprised Zhao Fu was that Yi Ningxuang was still a virgin and had maintained it for 100 or so years. This was quite rare. Chapter 736. Yi Ningxuang madly tangled with Zhao Fu. But Zhao Fu stopped just as she was feeling the most comfortable. Yi Ningxuang tightly hugged Zhao Fu, a pleading look in her eyes as she said, "Hurry up and give it to me. It's not enough." Zhao Fu controlled Yi Tsong to walk over and pinched Yi Ningxuang's chin. He turned her head and smiled as he said, "How is it? Ancestor, are you very happy? Are you willing to submit to me? As long as you're willing to listen to me and let me control the Night Dynasty, I'll let him do it with you every day." Yi Ningxuang felt that these words were not quite right. It was as if Zhao Fu was trying to sell himself, someone who would use his body to make a deal. Yi Ningxuang, who was filled with lust, did not immediately refuse. She looked hesitant and uncomfortable as she looked at the man she was hugging. That handsome face and dignified aura made Yi Ningxuang understand that she could not leave him, and she felt as if she was going to die. "I agree to help you obtain the Night Dynasty's power, but you have to promise that it won't fall into anyone else's hands. After all, you're part of the Yi family's bloodline, so giving the Night Dynasty to you is the same as giving it to the Yi family. Also, he'll belong to me from now on." Yi Ningxuang said coldly as she suppressed the lust in her heart. Zhao Fu inwardly laughed. The Night Dynasty's power had always been in Zhao Fu's hands, so how could Zhao Fu give it to anyone else? As such, he controlled Yi Tsong and replied seriously, "I can promise that the Night Dynasty definitely won't fall into anyone else's hands." Hearing Yi Tsong make such a solemn promise, Yi Ningxuang felt quite satisfied and said coldly, please stay away." Zhao Fu understood what she meant. She did not want to do it in front of others, so he controlled Yi Song to leave. However, she would never have thought that Yi Song was also Zhao Fu. After Yi Song left, Yin Ningxuang's cold expression became flirtatious as she panted and said, "Good man, you can give him to me now, right?" With a trace of a smile, Zhao Fu lowered his head and kissed her fragrant lips, beginning to satisfy her wish. This continued for an entire night. Yin Ningxuang sweetly hugged Zhao Fu and was no longer as cold as before. Instead, she coquettishly said, "You bad fellow, why didn't you appear earlier? You made me experience this kind of happiness only now." Zhao Fu smiled proudly. "I didn't expect that you could keep your virginity for so long." Yin Ningxuang snorted lightly. "Maintaining my virginity is beneficial to the purity of my cultivation. I haven't met a suitable man, so I've been maintaining it. Now, I've been ruined by a bad person like you." Zhao Fu was quite happy, and he hugged Yin Ningxuang as he said, "I'll treat you well in the future and won't let you down." Yin Ningxuang sweetly smiled and tightly hugged Zhao Fu as she said curiously, "Darling, what's wrong? How can you be so powerful and listen to Yi Song? Moreover, after doing it with you, not only did my cultivation not decrease, but it instead greatly increased. Hurry and tell me what secrets you have." Zhao Fu looked down at her and lightly patted her back as he said, "I'll tell you about this in the future. Yi Song, that boy, has waited long enough. Hurry and put on your clothes." Of course, Zhao Fu couldn't tell her about this right now. If she found out about his true identity and goal, who knew what she would do? As such, he could only hide it for now. Yin Ningxuang felt quite displeased and reluctant, and she said with a trace of embarrassment, "Then you'll have to stay with me tonight." Zhao Fu lightly nodded, and only then did Yin Ningxuang sit up and start to put on her clothes. Zhao Fu also started to put on his clothes. After putting on their clothes, Zhao Fu controlled Yi Song to walk out from the other side. Following this, Zhao Fu controlled Yi Song and started to talk about his plan. The Heaven-Awakened world political power was easy to control, but he had to control the real world's political power as well. Out of the 5 ancestors, Yin Ningxuang only controlled 10% of the power, and the other 4 ancestors also controlled 10%. As for the remaining 5%, the current king controlled 20%, and the other 3 factions each controlled 10%. After hearing Yin Ningxuang's explanation, Zhao Fu felt that this faction was quite complicated. However, now that he had Yin Ningxuang's support, he had obtained 10% of the Night Dynasty's power. Of the remaining 4 ancestors, even though there was a woman, she was already 290 years old and looked like an old woman in her 70s. Zhao Fu had no choice but to treat her like Yin Ningxuang, so he could not do anything to her. As such, he could only choose another method. Zhao Fu planned to talk to the generals of the various factions. Of course, there was no need to find generals who were absolutely loyal to the Night Dynasty. Zhao Fu's targets were generals who had other ideas or were not completely loyal to the Night Dynasty. If he wanted to usurp the throne, he first had to control the military, so Zhao Fu started to act. Within a hidden room, Yi Song watched as a mighty-looking middle-aged man walked in. A trace of a smile appeared on his face as he stood up and pointed at a chair beside him as he said, "General Li, please sit. Please sit." Li Chong felt quite angry and coldly glared at Zhao Fu as he said, "Where did you take my wife?" In order to ensure that this information would not be leaked and that these generals would come to see him, as well as to convince them, Zhao Fu had captured some of their relatives. Even though it was quite despicable, his plan was quite effective. "Don't worry, your wife is quite safe, so let me introduce myself. I'm called Yi Song, and I'm the legatee of the Night Dynasty," Yi Song said as he gave a slight smile and a trace of humility. Li Chang's expression fell, and he immediately understood Yi Song's goal. He wanted to usurp the Night Dynasty's power. However, Yi Song's identity was not acknowledged in the Night Dynasty, and if he helped Yi Song, his entire family would be slaughtered. As such, Li Chong immediately refused, saying, "I won't betray the Night Dynasty. nor will I agree to your request. If you want money, I can give you as much as I can." Zhao Fu did not mind Li Chang's reaction because this was within his expectations. He said confidently, "I know what General Li is worried about, but don't worry. I already have absolute confidence in obtaining the Heaven-Awakened World's power, but I'm still considering the real world's power. I need your support to completely control the Night Dynasty's power. If I succeed, you will immediately be promoted by 3 ranks." Of course, Li Chang did not believe Yi Tsong. He did not believe that a minor figure like Yi Tsong would have such power. However, a person walked out, causing Li Chang to feel quite confused. This person was naturally the Night Dynasty's youngest ancestor, Yi Ningshuang. By now, Yi Ningshuang had regained her cool and elegance and said, "General Li, you don't need to worry about this. He has already made ample preparations, and I can guarantee that nothing will happen to you." Li Chang had never thought that the Yi family's ancestor would stand on Yi Tsong's side. Li Chang immediately felt that a shocking conspiracy was looming over the Night Dynasty. What should he do now? His wife was in their hands, and the Yi family's ancestor was supporting him. Moreover, he had the Yi family's bloodline, and they seemed quite confident. However, the Night Dynasty had not detected such a massive conspiracy at all. Chapter 737. In the end, after thinking about it, Li Chang agreed. The Night Dynasty was about to change, and Yi Tsong had a great advantage. Now was the time to choose a side. If he chose well, he would naturally be promoted, but if he did not, he might die. Zhao Fu gave a pleased smile and sent Li Chang off before finding the others and convincing them to be loyal to Yi Tsong. Yi Ningshuang had contributed the most, and without her, Zhao Fu would not have been able to convince these generals. That night, she was rewarded by Zhao Fu, and she fainted for the first time. She only woke up at noon the next day. Now, Zhao Fu controlled 70% of the Night Dynasty's military, and the remaining 30% were all loyal. Zhao Fu had no way of convincing them, so Zhao Fu now had the confidence to start a coup. 3 days later, everything had been prepared, and Zhao Fu started to make his plans. An undercurrent swept through the Night Dynasty, which was currently peaceful and quiet and did not notice anything at all. The sky was filled with stars, looking like a river of stars, and it was quite beautiful. The city hall was heavily guarded, but with Yi Ningshuang's help, these people were useless. After all, Yi Ningshuang was one of the 5 ancestors, so they naturally trusted her. Zhao Fu controlled Yi Tsong's body and easily entered this place. Looking at the city hard in front of him, Zhao Fu grinned, walked up to it, and chose to conquer it. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out throughout the Night Dynasty city as a black pillar of light rushed into the sky. The entire Night Dynasty's fate started to roil and gather towards the city hall. This caused everyone to feel quite startled, and they all thought of something and ran towards the city hall. The 4 other ancestors hurried over, and seeing Yi Ningshuang blocking their way, they angrily asked, "Ningshuang, what's going on?" Facing the 4 ancestors' rebukes, Yi Ningshuang sighed and said, "The Night Dynasty's legatee has obtained the final legacy." What? The 4 ancestors were infuriated. By now, a massive vortex had formed in the sky, and a demon dragon giving off a terrifying aura gave off a heaven-shaking roar as it flew out of the vortex. The 4 ancestors' expressions fell. They had never thought that Yi Ningshuang would help such a lowly person inherit the Night Dynasty. This made them feel incredibly furious, and they exploded out with terrifying auras as they rushed towards the city hall, wanting to stop this. The other city lords also sensed the great change and rushed over. Facing the 4 ancestors, Yi Ningshuang looked quite worried and did not stop them because a person had already appeared beside her. Zhao Fu exploded out with all of his power, and the Qin seal started to gather the power of 300 or so city lord seals. Motes of light giving off powerful auras appeared in the sky, and the power they gave off made it seem as if the sky had collapsed, locking down everything. Everyone in the Night dynasty city seemed to be dominated by terror, and their bodies uncontrollably trembled as if they had fallen into an icy cavern. The four ancestors and the Night Dynasty's city lord's expressions fell. They had never thought that the person who had suddenly appeared would be so powerful. An ancestor of the Night Dynasty hurriedly yelled, "Hurry! Activate the demonic knife formation. This person is extremely dangerous, and with our strength, we won't be able to stop him." Boom! Boom! Two explosions simultaneously sounded out. One was the sound of a formation being activated, and rays of shocking black light appeared, giving off terrifying auras as the heaven and earth essence chi in the surrounding 10,000 kilometers madly gathered. The other sound was the demon dragon diving down from the sky and entering Yitsong's body. Now, Yitsong had officially become the Night Dynasty's legatee. A black jade seal appeared around one of the ancestors' bodies, and he turned into a ray of light as he flew towards the city hall. This ancestor could not stop him at all. The terrifying formation stopped, and City Lord seals floated out of the Night Dynasty's City Lords' bodies. As they watched in shock, they turned into rays of light and flew towards the city hall. The City Lords immediately lost their City Lord seals' power. Under Zhao Fu's control, Yitsong smiled as he walked out and looked at the people around him. A few historical generals and many commoners immediately knelt and said, "We greet your majesty." When the four ancestors and a few middle-aged men saw this scene, their expressions became quite unsightly. The four ancestors had also lost their City Lord seals, but they still had Stage 8 cultivation and were a bit more powerful than a great City Lord. However, they did not dare to act, as they feared Zhao Fu. Now, Zhao Fu had 300 or so City Lord seals, so how could his power not be terrifying? One of the ancestors was furious to the extreme, and his face became red as he pointed at Yi Ningshuang and cursed, "You slut, you're helping an outsider take over the Night Dynasty. I can't believe the Yi family gave birth to you and nurtured you for so many years." Zhao Fu's expression became cold, and he raised his hand, sending out a massive amount of power, wanting to kill this old ghost. Yi Ningshuang was now his woman, and Zhao Fu would not allow anyone to humiliate her. Seeing that Zhao Fu was filled with killing intent, Yi Ningshuang hurriedly stopped Zhao Fu and said, "Honey, don't kill them. Don't kill them." Zhao Fu glanced at the uncomfortable Yi Ningshuang and snorted, "That's why you stopped." At that moment, Yi Ningshuang said, "I'm not helping an outsider. Yitsong is my Night Dynasty's legatee and has received the acknowledgement of the Legacy Stone." One of the ancestors angrily pointed at Zhao Fu and said, "If you didn't help an outsider, then who is he? You even shamelessly call him darling. What a bastard! What a disgrace to our Yi family!" Bang! Before she could finish speaking, Zhao Fu waved his hand, and an invisible force struck her, sending her flying like a rubber ball. She was unable to resist at all, causing the other three ancestors to feel a chill in their hearts. Yi Ningshuang's eyes were slightly moist. She angrily punched Zhao Fu. "Darling, I told you not to make a move, yet you still made a move." Seeing how pitiful and weak she looked, Zhao Fu felt quite pained and hugged her. At the same time, he controlled Yi Tsong and laughed as he walked out, saying, "I'll give you one last chance. Are you willing to submit to me?" The Night Dynasty's emperor, Yi Canhong, who was Yi Tsong's father, said angrily, "You bastard, you dare to be so rebellious? You want me to submit to you?" Yi Tsong's consciousness was now that of Zhao Fu, so he was not very angry. Now that all of the Night Dynasty's higher-ups were gathered here, he could capture them all in one fell swoop. Traces of eerie, ghostly chi started to spread out, covering everyone as if it had a mind of its own. Everyone was given a big fright and felt a chill in their hearts. Their vision blurred, and they found themselves in a world of ghosts. Countless ghosts started to attack them. The remaining three ancestors were not simple at all. Their eyes glazed over as they struggled free and flew away from the ghostly chi in terror. Chapter 738. Yining Shuang hurriedly cried out, "Honey, don't harm them." Zhao Fu did not kill them, and only used his power to seal them before tossing them to the side. Yining Shuang let out a sigh of relief. Looking at the ghostly Qi below, she understood that Zhao Fu's identity was not simple at all. She could tell from the dignified and domineering aura that he gave off. "Honey, just who are you?" Yining Shuang could not help but ask. Zhao Fu looked at her and seemed to sense something. He lightly sighed and lightly hugged her waist as he said earnestly, "I'm sorry. I can't tell you right now, but I swear I won't harm you." Yining Shuang felt a sweetness in her heart. With this promise, everything was enough. In the real world, the Night Dynasty's generals who had submitted to Zhao Fu started to move. They had heard that Yi Tsong's plan in the Heaven Awakened world had been quite successful, and the Night Dynasty could not be changed anymore. As such, they could only obey Yi Tsong's orders. Zhao Fu charged into the residences of the ministers and saw that they were all unconscious before tying them up. The generals who were loyal to the Night Dynasty and the Night Dynasty's royal family were all tied up. Now that these people were in the Dark Ghost world, they were in battle mode and could not leave the Heaven Awakened world. The Dark Ghost world was created by great City Lord Seals, and those who did not have City Lord Seal's power would not be able to escape. With everything under control, Zhao Fu's orders were sent to the Dark Ghost world. After waking up, the great City Lords, including Yi Qinhong, received system announcements and hurriedly left the Heaven Awakened world, only to find that they had been tied up. Yi Qinhong furiously roared, "Who did this? I'm going to cut him into 1,000 pieces. I'm the Night Dynasty's emperor. I'm going to kill him." Many soldiers stood at the side, none of them paying attention to his shouts. A king who had been robbed of his power was nothing. After returning to the real world and seeing this scene, the ministers and generals all sighed and returned to the Heaven Awakened world. They knelt in front of Yi Tsong and said in unison, "We are willing to submit to your majesty." Now the world had changed. Not only was Yi Tsong the legatee and held great power in the Heaven Awakened world, but he also controlled the real world. They could only submit, or else the only outcome would be death. Of course, there were also a few die-hard loyalists who refused to submit. Zhao Fu didn't show any mercy and ordered them all to be killed. After everything was taken care of, Zhao Fu controlled Yi Tsong's body and accepted everyone's submission. He started to announce to the world that he had officially ascended to the throne as King of Night. The Night Dynasty's ordinary residents and soldiers did not understand what was going on. After waking up, the Night Dynasty had changed rulers. However, after hearing that this person was the Night Dynasty's legatee, they did not object. After all, the Night family was the king. After Yi Tsong ascended to the throne, he immediately enacted some policies that were beneficial to the people, such as reducing taxes, putting talents in important positions, and punishing corrupt officials, winning over the hearts of the people. The Night Dynasty's future seemed to be bright, and its many policies caused the commoners to rejoice. The generals who had submitted were all given important positions, and the regime was incredibly stable. Most of the Yi family's higher-ups had been captured by Zhao Fu, and there had been no rebellions. This matter shook the entire world, and countless people had never thought that the Night Dynasty would change rulers overnight. Yi Tsong, who had been born in the mountains, had actually become the ruler of the Night Dynasty. This news was simply too shocking, and everyone wanted to know how Yi Tsong had done it. The Demon Path sect, which Yi Tsong had been from before, was also incredibly shocked. After all, Yi Tsong had only been an outer court disciple back then, and now he was on equal footing with them overnight. The person who was the most shocked in the Demon Path sect was Mo Yaoer. After finding out that Yi Tsong was the legatee, she had felt quite surprised. However, after thinking about it, how could such a lowly person be acknowledged by the Night Dynasty? As the sect master's daughter, Mo Yaoer was quite ambitious. After finding out that the Night Dynasty was searching everywhere for a legatee, Mo Yaoer had leaked this information to the Night Dynasty as a favor. However, Mo Yaoer had never thought that he would actually become the ruler of the Night Dynasty. Not only was he the legatee, but he had also taken control of the Night Dynasty and become a king. Thinking about that, Mo Yao Air's expression became quite unsightly. She knew that because she had leaked this information, Yi Tsong's entire village had been slaughtered. This was a great enmity between them, and thinking about Yi Tsong's sincere and devoted eyes, Mo Yao Air felt quite regretful. What should we do now? Go to his door and ask for his forgiveness? Thinking about Yi Tsong's infatuated gaze, Mo Yao Air felt quite confident. After all, she was the #1 beauty in the southern continent, and no man would not like her. Even the Night Dynasty's legatee had admired her for a long time. Mo Yao Air was quite confident that she could make Yi Tsong kneel before her. However, she was the daughter of the Demon Path sect's sect master, and the Demon Path sect was a top-tier faction that was not any weaker than the Night Dynasty. Wouldn't it be too shameful for her to come and apologize like this? After thinking about it, because Yi Tsong held great power and he had a grudge against him, even though he hadn't killed anyone in the village, it was all because of her. After making this decision, Mo Yao Air decided to discuss it with her father. This was not a small matter, and it was possible that it would cause a war between the Demon Path sect and the Night Dynasty. After the Demon Path sect's sect master, Mo Sun, heard about this, he thought for a moment and said, "Yaoer, you really didn't do anything wrong this time, using the life of an outer sect disciple. Using an outer court disciple's life as a favor to the Night Dynasty was worth it. However, I never thought that something like this would happen. Yi Tsong has a lowly background and has decent talent, but his cultivation isn't very high and he doesn't have many friends. How did he become the ruler of the Night Dynasty?" Now, all of the factions in the southern continent are curious about this. However, no information has been leaked from the Night Dynasty, so I feel that this matter is quite extraordinary. Also, is that boy Yi Tsong really so infatuated with you that he'll do anything you want? Hearing this, Mo Yao Air laughed in a pleased manner, saying, "Dad, of course it's true. Of course it's true. Don't you know how charming your daughter is? Back then, I didn't say anything, and he told me about the legatee himself. Back then, I said I wanted a demonic immortal flower. That foolish brat spent over a month and almost died trying to get it for me. I just said it casually and didn't care too much about it. Who would have thought that the foolish brat would take it seriously?" A trace of a smile appeared on Mo Sun's face as he said, "If he really is that infatuated with you, Yao Air, you can try to control him. If you can control him, you'll be able to control the entire Night Dynasty. This will be of great help to the Demon Path sect, and will be able to indirectly control the Night Dynasty. However, Yao Air, you should be careful. After all, something like this has happened, so you should test him first before acting. Don't put yourself in danger." Mo Yao Air smiled and nodded, and she confidently started to make preparations. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.